Good evening and welcome to Insight Live. I am Gino, your host, and as always, wait a minute, not as always, we have a returning guest. You know what's funny, Joe? I do a show called Rescue the Fosters, and that's kind of my opening line, as always. And then I introduce my co-host. Well, you're not my co-host. You're a returning guest. I think this is your sixth or seventh time on
Yeah,
Insight.
it's been a
Yeah,
good, it's been a few.
it's been a good run. Yeah. And anyway, Joseph Jordan joins me. He is the co-founder of CE4 Research. And Joe, you're doing some great work exposing the darkness. We are living in a day where I don't know if deception has been greater, maybe since the time of Noah. What we're seeing, especially with this UAP stuff that's been going on, I know you've been keeping up on it.
Yeah.
And this is the one thing that I'm encouraged about is that I do believe a lot of the people, at least the people I follow and watch on social media, it does seem like they're onto the jig. Now, does that mean the greater populace is? I doubt it. I think a lot of people are going to fall for this stuff if they're not in Christ. I know that's your ministry. Your ministry is to expose
Yep.
the darkness that is the so-called alien abduction. You and I are on the same page. We both believe it's demons. We might disagree a little bit. I do believe there's might be some kind of hybrid thing going on, but I still think it's demons behind it all. It doesn't matter. It's just deception, any way you slice it. So, anyway, without further ado, Joe Jordan, welcome back to Insight. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, and thanks for having me back on again. It's always new stuff to talk about.
Oh man, do we have a lot? Yeah. Although tonight I know I don't want to disappoint anybody watching. You're not going to be disappointed because we're going to watch a documentary together. But next time, Joe, we'll have you on, and maybe we can bring a couple of your friends with you, and we will
Okay.
discuss all that's going on in the UFO community, UAP community, because it's so much. We could probably talk for 6 hours on it. Like it's
Oh
just
yeah.
incredible the disclosure that's happening right now from the president on down. I mean, it's did you ever think this day would actually arrive in our lifetime?
um, well, I'm not sure it's actually going to arrive. I think we're going to get something, but I don't think it's going to be a final for what we're looking for.
Mm, yeah, yeah, I think you're
Like,
right.
yeah, it's going to pacify a lot of people, but your hardcore people that are the real researchers doing this, I don't think they're going to be happy.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think there's going to be a lot of disappointment because it's been built up to be something it's really not.
Yeah,
So the expectations are so high that they have to be let down.
yeah,
And I think there will be a few surprises. I think there's going to be a lot of shocking things that do come forth, but I don't think it's what they expect. Elon's talking about going back to Mars, and you're working with Amazon Rocket and all Amazon Blue. Is that what it's called? Amazon
Blue Origin.
Blue Origin. I always mix it up. Um, and so, like, we're doing the space travel. People still think the Earth's flat. We have people that there's lots of I get it. I get the whole conspiracy theories. I mean, some of them maybe I might believe a little bit. Probably not fully in, but I do believe we're on a round ball floating around in space.
Yeah,
That God created this blue marble that is so beautiful. Whether we're seeing actual pictures from space, and if I don't know, I'm not there, so it's not for me to judge. But I think it's what's the word say? It says we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and then the heavens declare the glory of God. Like these are have if you're a Christian, the Holy Spirit dwells within you. You have become the temple. And so we have access to this entire creation that He has given us through His
yeah.
Spirit, which, Joe, that just blows the mind, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And there's so much to look at out there, and it's just amazing that he says he made it for us, so that we would be in awe of him. And
Right.
the more you look at it, the more you will be in awe of him.
It's amazing. It really is. I mean,
Yeah,
like, I was thinking the other day, I was just trying to contemplate, like, the closest star to Earth. Like, you can't even fathom that in your
yeah,
mind. It's just so incredible, the distance. And that's just one star.
yeah.
There's, I don't know, hundreds of billions of them, trillions, whatever it
Yep.
is. I don't, it's
Oh,
just
they have
insane.
no idea now. Once they put that last telescope up there, it got so far out there that it shook them up that they were expecting to see, you know, the primordial soup of creation, and it wasn't there. It's just more of what they're seeing now.
Hmm.
And
Right.
that's got to rethinking the whole thing.
I remember when Hubble, I think it was Hubble, when it first went up, it might have been one of the first or second pictures they took. They just looked into deep space, into a
Hmm.
dark matter. And I remember they kept zooming in, zooming in, zooming in, and they thought it was. Then they thought they saw a little bit of light, a couple stars, and it turns out all those stars were galaxies, and there was like ten
Yeah.
thousand galaxies just in this like 1 square inch of where
Yeah.
it zoomed in on in the universe. It's mind blowing, and you know, Joe, I can't even say this with a straight face, but this whole evolution nonsense is just. I was watching. Speaking of documentaries, I was watching a documentary last night, and it was a good one. It was actually about about visceral fat. It's a totally different subject. And it was a great video. I mean, guy did a fantastic job putting this thing together. How you get rid of it, how dangerous it can be, blah 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 blah. And he would mention such scientific evidence of molecules and atoms and how these different things are happening in your body. And then he's like, it's over thousands or millions of years of evolution. The body has acclimated to. And I'm like, come on, man. Seriously.
Yeah.
But he went to evolutionary design. And I'm like, that's a new one. I don't think I've
Yeah.
heard evolutionary design before. Have you?
I haven't heard that term. That's so there he's reaching out there. He knows that it's not making sense. So they got to come up with a different term.
Exactly. Yeah. I
And
mean, there,
that documentary, you need to send me the link to it
I
because
will.
I got some visceral fat I need to get rid of.
Our other show that we were doing on Mondays was a lot of health stuff. And
Yeah.
man, I was being convicted doing the shows. So I'm like, I got to start doing this. Otherwise, I'm a hypocrite. So about 6 months ago, I really started going in the gym and stuff. So I'm there 5, 6 days a week, and I'm burning the visceral fat and gaining muscle. So feeling pretty good these days. I had to, Joe. My main motivation was two things. Well, three things. My grandson. I wanted to be able to roll around, pick him up without pain because my back was killing me. Knee's still in pain. That the back pain slowly has dissipated. The knee pain's still working on that one. But I am able to roll around with him and pick him up now, so that's a great thing.
There
And
you
then
go.
my nephews, I was playing golf last year. We went on a golf outing, and my two nephews were there. And, they're pretty fit and football guys and wrestling guys and stuff. And I'm like, oh, do I remember the days? I was just like, I'm like, I'm going to try my best next year. I will be back and be fit. So those were my
I'll,
goals.
I'll tell you something. When you get to be my age, I'm 72 now. Um, you can't forget those days because you're living with the pain from those days, you know.
So true. It is
That
so
just
true.
keep reminding you, oh, I remember where I
Oh
got
my
that one
gosh.
from.
I was watching another health video today, and they were showing 6 exercises that you should be able to do, as you age or whatever. And one of them was like this jump. Like you had to jump like 2 meters or something like that. And I'm like, if I jump like that, my left knee is going to blow out. Like, there's just no way that's going to happen at this point. So still got a ways to go, but at least I started. All right, Joe. So let's talk about the documentary. I'm excited to do a watch party with you on this one. I watched it a few weeks ago. I thought it was fantastic. I thought they did a great job putting this thing together. It's very riveting. You've got testimonies in there of people that have gone through different spiritual experiences. So let's talk to the audience a little bit about what this is about, what the documentary is about.
Okay. I was contacted about 3 years ago by a gentleman, Dean Joseph, that he's a filmmaker and he's been in the uh, video recording business for quite some time. He was actually one of the cameramen that was recording during 9/11 in New York
Oh,
because that's where he was living and working at the time. And I think it was for ABC. I think he said he was with. And there's a couple shots that he told me about. He says, if you saw those shots, he says those are mine. And so he's been at this a long time, and he's got a good concept of what a good film looks like. And when he contacted me, he was aware of my work, well aware of my work, and he wanted to help put it out there, in a bigger form than what we've been doing, what I've been doing over the years. And originally, the intent was to film me with all the information that I could give and what I've come across over the years, and also my partner Guy Malone out in Roswell, the work he done out there, and then have a few testimonies on to support the documentary. And he's constantly working on it, constantly working on it. We did a lot of filming. He went to Roswell with me a couple years ago, and we did a lot of filming out there for trying to get all the film footage that we could to put together, give him something to work with. And when it came time to finally put it together, the Lord laid on his heart a completely different plan. It wasn't the original idea that he had to put together. It totally took him by surprise, and it took me by surprise when he finally showed it to me, because I had no idea where he was going with this until he actually had it ready and showed me. And he shows me this documentary that I spent so much time with him on, giving interviews with him on film. And then I watch it and I'm not even in it. And I'm thinking, I don't know what to say, except that this is a great film, but I was still kind of puzzled what happened there. And he told me, he said, the Lord laid on his heart a completely different concept for the documentary. And he went with it. And this is what you're getting ready to see tonight. And it's amazing. Most people are expecting a documentary to have a lot of talking heads in it, which most of them all do. This one, you'll be quite surprised. There's not one talking head in this at all. This is it's a totally unique type of film, and I'm just blown away by it. Everybody we've been able to show it to in its early stages, trying to get feedback on it. I had an opportunity last year to do a first-time viewing in a church up in McMinnville, Oregon, and I'm headed back there next month for the McMinnville UFO Festival. And I had a chance to show it first time. It wasn't live, but we wanted to get some feedback on it. And I showed it up there, and there were just tears in the audience at the end. And there's some music and a song that's played at the closing credits. And it just blew me away as I'm standing there in this church as we're playing it for the first time. It's the first time I've seen people watch it. And then I was like, oh my, they're all singing. They're all singing the song at the end. And it was like, it brought tears to my eyes, for that one. And I told him about that. And he says, no way. And I said, yeah, they did. They were moved. And then I did something that off the cuff. I said, I want to get feedback on this for him. So I took my camera and I videoed people that were willing to come on camera and talk about the experience watching the film. You know what happened? I ended up getting testimonies from those people. And as I'm standing there,
when you say testimonies that they had abduction experiences or
they had
some kind of spiritual
yeah. And they never shared it before. And here I'm inside of with a congregation in a church auditorium, and I'm standing there filming. People are hanging around and they're watching as I'm filming these people one by one that wanted to come up and talk. And over off to the side is the pastor. And he had never heard any of this from his people in his church. And I talked to him later and he goes, I think I need some work to do here. I got to talk to these people. And I said, yeah. I said, all you got to do is give them the opportunity to come out and they'll tell you their stories, And it's something he had never done. He never thought about it, never expected it to be like that. But there were some powerful testimonies there that came out of that. And it gives the people an opportunity to say, okay, these people spoke, I can speak, And we're going to be sharing those eventually on the YouTube channel too. And I'm going to be doing more of that when I have an opportunity in a church setting to show these, or in a congregation setting to show it. Because people are just dying to tell their story. They're just afraid nobody's going to listen to them, or they're going to think they're crazy. But this takes that away. This gives them that freedom to be able to come forward and say, I too have been through that. And I too am one of those testimonies. Because, in my work with all the shows I've done with you, the evidence for what's behind this phenomenon is the testimonies. There is no other evidence to tell you what this is. There's nothing that's telling us the UFO phenomenon or UAP phenomenon is extraterrestrial. Nothing at all. They have nothing. They can come out and give us disclosure, but they can't give us anything. They're not going to give us anything as evidence. They're just going to say, trust us. This is what we're telling you is the truth. Uh, but you know how that goes. I mean, all you need is a good story nowadays. You don't need any evidence. And next thing you know, you got a million hits on YouTube, you know?
Yeah, so true.
If I wasn't a Christian, I've been in this long enough that I could tell a really good story. And I could probably be pretty well off financially because of it. But that's not what I do. That's not what believers do. Believers share the truth.
Yep.
And the truth is going to hurt a lot of people, you know. They're going to realize it's they were looking in the wrong direction. So we put this thing together. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of time, and I hope you get him on one day to talk because he has a powerful testimony on what he went through, spiritual warfare wise, to even get this thing to the point that you can see it, you know, today, like we're watching it now. Um, yeah, it's he went through hell and back to get this thing out there for people to see, and we're just excited to finally have it freely available. We decided not to charge for it. This is something that people needed to see, and like I always say, the reason I don't charge when I do talks or things like that is because I was given the truth 32 years ago, free from the Lord. He gave me the truth freely. Why would I charge you for the truth? You know, it's got to be free. And I just trust in the Lord. He's going to give me all the opportunities to have that chance to share it. And that's what we're doing with the documentary. And now we have a chance. You know, it's live now, and people have a chance to watch it.
Mm-hmm. I was going to bring that up, that it is free and that you've offered it, and you could share it anywhere you guys want. In fact, that would help a ton. Both Joe and I are in the business. When I say business, I mean the Lord's business. We're not in it for money. Joe, I was accused a while back. There was someone watching, and there was a guy in the chat, and he kept talking about how I'm a grifter and I'm making all this money. I was laughing. I'm like, man, I how much I've made? About $400 ever, and it wasn't on purpose. It was people just donating randomly. It was nice of them to do it, but like, I didn't get in this to make money. I got in it to spread the gospel and to spread the truth, and this is part of the truth. And the dirty little secret is, gosh, Joe, it's almost 100% of the church knows nothing about this. They don't understand this, that it's spiritual warfare, which you would think the church should be at the cusp of this, right? Like, we should be out in the forefront, pointing our finger, saying, this is deception. This is what it looks like.
But that's what we're trying to do. And we're hoping that this documentary gives us that little bit of an edge to get in there and get their support and get them excited to be able to say, all right, I see this. Now I understand. Let's go. And I'm hoping this is what this documentary will do.
Yeah, I hope so too. Looks like it's getting a few views over there on YouTube, so that's great, but a few more shares would help. So, all right, well, let's get into it. Let's play it. It's about an hour runtime, guys. If you could, while you're watching it, if you want to comment, leave some comments for us. Also, if you could share, that's the biggest thing you could do right now. We're just trying to get the truth out, and that would be very helpful. So, Joe, let's go ahead and we're going to mute our microphones, and we'll get right in.
I was putting in a few hours. I had to pick up a friend later in the evening at around 8 o'clock. So I thought I needed to get some work done. So I'm at my desk and I'm looking out these big windows that we had, and I kept glancing at this light. And at the time it was still daytime. It just kept catching my eye. I'm like, what is that light up there? It's not the sun. It's really low. It looks like it's over Hoag Hospital. It just caught my attention, and I was really intrigued by it. So left work, and as I'm driving down Newport Boulevard, the light's there and it's getting bigger. It's starting to get dark now, and the light is now got me completely captivated. And all of a sudden, it would get brighter, and then it would all of a sudden shrink very slowly and disappear. I'm looking at this and what's going on? And then before I could even think, it would appear over here and do the same thing. And it was doing this thing. It was happening over and over again. So now the whole thing I want to do in my mind is I got to show my friend who's going to be out like 5 minutes. So 8 o'clock rolls around. It's getting darker. They let her out. She comes out. And I'm like, hey, check this out. It's gone. Light's gone. I go, wait, just wait. So I'm sitting there. I'm waiting. I'm like, this thing's got to come back. It's going to come back. It doesn't come back. We may have gone a half a mile or a mile. She looks over. I don't see anything. She looks over and her hand flies across me and she goes, oh my God. I look out the passenger window and I see a massive spaceship. I just have to say it. You know, I've said it time and time again. I see this thing coming, and it was the biggest, craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I started freaking out. I started going, you know, like, oh my God, pull the truck over. Get out of the truck. It's dark at this time, so it must have been 8:20, 8:30. And this thing's coming at us, and it's just massive. And we're watching it, and I can't express like the feelings that I had. It was so overwhelming. There's no words to describe what you feel when you see something like this. It's insane. It's insanity. But this thing's coming. And what I remember is, as it was getting closer to us, it was moving in a really weird way. It was silent. There was no sound whatsoever at all. And it was moving as if it was in water. So it was moving very slowly. It was coming. And I knew it was going to come over us, but it was still silent. When it was directly over us, I said, what are you? Who are you? What is this? And I remember right when I said that, it stopped and it started to go backwards. The minute it went backwards, the fear that came over me was, I've never felt anything like that in my life. At the same time that happened, I looked over and you said, we got to get out of here. And I could see 3 more of these ships coming in the distance, far away, but they were coming. We bolted out of there. I didn't know whether to go left. We didn't know whether to go right. We were frantic, completely hysterical. That light that I'd seen earlier, that big, I'd call it like a mini sunlight, they were everywhere. I mean, there must have been 20 or 30 of them as far as I could see, not towards the ocean, but inland. And as she's driving the car, I'm looking at these things and I'm going, I was just like, this is a total invasion. We're totally under attack. This is alien, like armada of aliens coming at us. And I was for sure that's what was going down. I catch a glimpse to my right, and there are like 3 flying saucers to my right, maybe 40 feet above the car, so close that I could see again exactly what they looked like. They were discs. They were the typical, you know, UFO saucers, kinda. They were disc-shaped. They were in a formation. They were right above me. They were cruising along with us, a little bit ahead of us. So again, I'm thinking, we're under attack. Here's another type of ship that's going to be causing some serious problems here soon. And then they jettison it off. Gone. Once again, all I see are the sunlight orbs everywhere. And you know, if you're in Huntington, Newport area, there's a couple miles out, I guess, you'll see oil rigs. And there are these cylinders, and they were massive. And they put off a brilliant fluorescent light. And they were huge. And they were sitting above, directly on top, floating above one of the oil rigs. And they were kind of in like a Black Flag logo pattern. I remember feeling like somebody else needs to see this. So I guess to validate what we're going through and what we're seeing. And I remember having her pull over in the gas station area, and I remember getting out of the car, and I tried to compose myself because I didn't want to freak anybody out. I see this guy on the other side of the pumps, and he's standing facing in and out, and he's just standing there looking at them. And they're everywhere. Finally, this guy sees what I see. This is incredible. This is so weird, but it plays into a lot of what happened later, I think. I walked up to the guy. He didn't move. He was just standing there. And I go, what's going on? And he's like, he didn't even look at me, he goes, they're here all the time. And I was like, it made me feel better. And then he just frankly says, they don't get here like you think they get here. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, they get here through wormholes. They come through like wormholes to get here. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm getting some kind of answers. The guy has seen these before, obviously. I'm feeling kind of better, but not really. I was in shock like I had never been before in my life, for sure. In this area, it's busy. It's right by the freeway, and you've got a lot of people pumping gas. And I see a cop car, and at the time I'm approaching him, one of these light balls is coming directly towards us. It was such a great opportunity because all the guy had to do was turn to his left and go like that, and he would have seen exactly what I was talking about. And I said, officer, I'm a professional. I've got 3 kids. I'm a salesman. Just picked up a friend in Newport Beach, and we just encountered a bunch of ships in the sky. I know this sounds crazy, I've never seen before, and there's actually one just over your shoulder. I'm not going to get close to your car, but if you could just take a look and let me know what's going on, I really appreciate it. He says to me, he wasn't going to look to the left and up. He wasn't even going to look up at all. All he said was, come here and get a little closer. He goes, I want you to take your friend, calm down, and you need to go home. It destroyed me. You're law enforcement. You're here to protect, serve. I've got a situation, it might sound crazy, but the least you could do is look up in the sky. And you're not even gonna do that? You're not even gonna address anything? I kind of came at him again. And the second time he responded, he said, both of you come here. He goes, I don't want you talking about this anymore. I want you to get in your car now and go home right now, or I'm gonna have somebody come out here and take you. That was horrible. We drove to her house, which is a couple miles away. We stood outside and I watched these things for a while. I watched these things for a while.
In my home, paranormal activity was discussed. It was okay to discuss it. We, if something was moving or you heard something or the lights were being tinkered with, right? We were talking about ghosts. When I was 12 years old, I had my first psychic attacks. A psychic attack is defined as getting knowledge about something before it actually happens. And that happened for me in dreams. And I always say that when you're dreaming, when you're sleeping, the middle of the night, you're very vulnerable to spiritual attacks because you're coming in and out of these sleep stages, making you spiritually vulnerable. So Mom was a hairdresser and she would go to the beauty supply, and the woman who worked at the beauty supply happened to be a tarot card reader. So Mom at this point was working in our home. She had her little beauty parlor in our home, and the tarot card reader came to do this group reading. Mom's clients came, and Mom let us participate in these readings. She let us each get our own reading. And it was 13-year-old stuff that this woman was telling me. Your best friend, went on a trip and brought you back a piece of jewelry, and that's just enough. My best friend had gone to Ireland, and she came back with a beautiful piece of jewelry for me. And I was like, whoa, how does this woman know these things? How do these cards, no, this is an absolute stranger. How could this be? And that question just left me wanting more. I started seeking out other types of psychics. So clairvoyance, of course, they're ready to go at the mall. Who is lighting candles? Who will say a spell? Who will do this? Who will do that? I was participating in all of this. I was then getting my astrology charts done. I was getting numerology charts done. And I'd be sitting with these people an hour and a half, 2 hours, going through the whole thing. So at this time, I was doing readings, basically friends, family. Hey, I just meet you. I just received some information. I'm a psychic. Can I share it with you? 9 times out of 10, or should I really say it was probably more like 10 times out of 10? The answer was yes, because people are so intrigued, just as intrigued as I was. This was the first psychic medium attack through a dream. And there was a young man in the dream who I knew to be deceased in the dream. Didn't know this guy from Adam, didn't know if this was none of it, but in the dream I knew that this person was dead. And I could see what he looked like, and I could see how he died. And then what I saw in the dream was my ex. He came one day and I said, hey, listen, I got to share this with you. I had this dream. I don't know what it means, maybe nothing, whatever, I got to talk. And he goes, I have to talk to you. He goes, I can't even believe this. He said, it was like her brother's friend or something. That's exactly what he looked like. That's exactly how old he was. That's exactly how he died. So he says to me, so what's his name? Michael. And it was like downloaded immediately, Michael, that's his name. And he was like, yeah, that's his name. And I'm like, so we're both like, what's happening? So of course, what do? I go to the psychic medium, because that's where I go for everything. And she starts telling me that at some point in the reading that I'm a medium and that the dead are trying to contact me, and this is a gift from God. And I need to use it to help people to connect with their departed loved ones. And of course, here I am. Well, why would you not accept your gift from God? I've got to help people.
My grandfather was a spiritist. He actually performed seances, channeling, and he believed that the spirit of the person stays on earth and guides the descendants. And my mother, she, at the age of 12, prayed to receive Christ into her heart, so the two were diametrically opposed to each other. And so much estranged that she didn't even have pictures of him around the house at all. But he made a promise to her that he would visit her children. And as it turns out, they saw visions of my grandfather appearing to them on a number of occasions. And I got wind of that when I was about 11 years old. And I thought it would really be intriguing, really be cool at the time if my grandfather would, guide me along, since he was with my aunts and he was with my 2 other sisters, and I thought, well, why not me? As it happened, it was one night during a dream, this man appeared before me. He asked me, did I want his help? Well, I woke up, but I saw him vividly, and I was in the kitchen with my mother, and I told her about this dream of this man that I saw. Now, mind you, I never saw him before in my life. I never saw any pictures. My mother never had any pictures of him, but she did have one picture that she kept in her chest of drawers. And so I was describing what he was wearing, what he looked like, everything. And she kind of turned white as a ghost and then got up and went to her dresser, opened up the drawer, pulled out this picture and showed it to me. And I said, that's him. And she said, that's your grandfather. And I had described everything down to exactly what he was wearing. And when she left to go put the picture away, I said out loud there at the kitchen table, I said, grandfather, if that was you, yes, I do want you to help me. Please, be with me. before that, I was pretty much of a shy, introverted kid. I didn't, I kind of stayed to myself. From that point on, suddenly I had this bolt of confidence. I started making friends. I was doing really well, and just felt like he was with me, and he was guiding me.
It all started back when I was taking care of my grandmother. My grandfather had already died prior to this. So while we were living there, we kept having things that would happen. We would hear footsteps in the middle of the night when no one else was up. We would hear my grandmother's music box turn on by itself. We would hear noises in the middle of the night, like someone was up in the kitchen, maybe preparing a meal. We would sometimes get up and there would be things out, things were moved. And one night we were laying there asleep and I was woke up by the noise again. And the noise continued and I had not opened my eyes yet. I was afraid. I wanted to look to see what it was, but I was afraid at the same time. Finally, I got up the courage and I heard the noise again. I opened my eyes and I looked over and I seen the kitchen chair move across the floor. My husband got up wanting to see what was going on. I was all upset and I was saying, I want to move, and all of a sudden my husband, talked to me and he said, Dana, it's probably just your grandfather because whatever it is, it hasn't tried to harm us. And I thought about it and I'm like, gosh, he's probably right. Maybe it is just my grandpa. I started to have questions about the afterlife. So I thought, well, what better way to find out but to ask the spirits themselves. I started going to the local graveyards, and I also brought my children with me. We would go out ghost hunting. We would take pictures. We would take recordings with looking for EVP, electronic voice phenomena recordings. The first night we went out, I did get an answer, and it was a spirit. It said that its name was Frank. Just so happened that the grave that I was standing at did say Frank on that grave. So I thought, okay, so it was more confirmation. And the more confirmation I got, the more I kept wanting to talk to the spirits and getting deeper into it.
So I remember getting to work in the morning. I sat there and cried. And I thought to myself, this is a freaking joke. The feeling I felt was everything I've known since April 2nd, 1972, being born on this planet meant nothing, and it was all a lie. It completely turned my world upside down. Yeah, big problems started after that. Big problems. Come to find out that the room I'm renting from these two elderly retired women, I come home and I tell this woman my story, and she says, oh, really? She's just telling me what I experienced, blah, blah, blah. She's pulling out a newspaper. Oh, my family, my younger sister was abducted. We were in Ohio, and she's bringing out all of this stuff that I had no idea was in this house. And she's telling me, oh, yeah, Jesus is an alien, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, what's going on? Like, she's telling me all this stuff out of nowhere. And I'm like, oh my God, she's got the answers. So I went down a crazy, crazy rabbit hole. I had this overwhelming sense of, why did this happen to me? I must be special. I got to play a part in doing something, and they're going to come back and they're going to take me or something. There's so many thoughts that go through your mind. It's just so intense. I'm searching now on my spare time aliens, grays, reptilians, the blue avians, the Palladians, the this, why they're coming here, ascension, blah, blah, blah. I'm on every rabbit hole on the computer, every YouTube video I'm going, I've got to figure this out. I can figure this out. I'm going to figure it out because work and money and bills and the white picket fence and the boy and the girl, that doesn't matter anymore. None of that matters because that's not even real. That's how you feel. And I just felt this call. I have to get away, the mountains, away, get into like nature, and I gotta see if this happens again. As creepy as it was, I wanted more of it. It sounds really weird. It was almost as if I was given more based upon my reaction and how much more I was seeking. That's when everything went south. And within weeks, I lose my job. And during that time, it was filming every night. It was searching, and it was having experiences. No matter where I was at night, especially if I was alone, I was seeing, I call them light ships because they're just balls of light, sometimes big, sometimes small, sometimes different colors, sometimes in shapes. I started noticing in the grain of the video, I was starting to see like what appeared to me to be like some kind of entities. I'm like, okay, this is really weird. I'm not seeing anything. I'm seeing the lights in real time, but I'm not seeing these entities until I go back and review on my phone the footage. These people kept coming into my life out of nowhere, talking to me, giving me information. It's as if these people knew what was going on with me without even saying anything. And it happened all the time. Things were happening in the house. Things were missing all the time. I mean, my keys are being missed, my rings, everything's disappearing in the house, which was really weird. Smells, odors in the place. This whole drive to figure out what the heck was going on was consuming me. This is too much. All this is just too much. And I said, show yourself to me. The minute I said, show me who you are, poof, 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 orbs right in front of my face. First time, real time, right there. My hand could touch them. I felt a calmness. They answered me, some type of answer right there. No, wasn't good. Those orbs were not good. I was filming, and this craft was pretty big, probably the biggest thing I'd seen since the first encounter, and it was far away. But I was looking at it, and I was gonna film it until it did something. I was waiting for it to do something. I start seeing these little balls of light coming out of the bottom of it. And I start to see these things getting closer, and they're coming my way. They came over the carport above my head, and that fear that had come over me at the beginning of all of this came back full circle, because it was, I just had this feeling like this is not good. And I remember stepping off the ledge and throwing the phone down and running as fast as I could to get away from these things. I just knew it wasn't right. Next thing I know, I'm in my truck, and she's like pounding on the window. What are you doing in here? What are you doing in here? Get out of the truck. And the car's unlocked the car. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What happened? I open up the car door, and I like fall out of the car. I felt like I had been beat up by like 8 guys just kicked you know what out of me. I didn't know what was going on. She's like, it's 3:30 in the morning. And I must have been out there at 10. Gets me to the apartment, went to bed quick, woke up in the morning, went to step out and get on my feet. I fell to the ground, couldn't walk on my feet. It felt like somebody had tied me down, kicked me everywhere in my body, and then somehow damaged my feet. I don't get it, but we ended up having to go to the doctor, and I was like using like a crutch for like 3 to 4 months after this. But that next morning, I looked down at my left leg. There's a triangle, 1 dot, 1 dot, 1 dot. I look at my hands. It's like somebody scraped my hand, like a cheese grater on my hand or something. I'm like, what's going on here? I got bruising all over my body. I start to panic, like something did happen to me last night. Something physically, like somebody did something to me when I was not awake. I start panicking, go out to the patio, get on the cell phone. Abduction images, all of them pop up. Triangle, check. Bruising, check. Scrapes, claws, my legs, check. Once the missing time and the physical came into play, I was like, okay, we're gonna go find professionals now. We have to find quote unquote professionals. And no one wanted to help me. Did not like to be left alone at all. However, I never stopped seeking. As all these experiences that I had, as threatening as they were and how violent they were in my mind and my heart and the fear that they brought to me, it was almost as if I seeked them out even more. I know it sounds strange, I know it sounds weird. It was an obsession, it was a complete obsession to why, where, when, and what's next. And no matter what happened, I was continuing to press forward, even as the fear grew and grew and grew. And I'm alone, I'm on the couch watching TV. It was about midnight. Just looked over and right on the glass, I could see 4 sets of eyes glowing. I knew I couldn't handle this because I knew in my mind that they were coming in and they were going to have a conversation or they were going to take me. One of the two I knew was going to happen. I got into a frantic state that I'd never experienced before. My heart was pounding so bad. And I remember being in the left corner of the couch and I was pressing myself in and trying to think, if you go out through the door, you've got to there's nowhere to go except right, and then they're standing there, so you're going to pass them. You can't get out. There's no way. The way it was constructed, you can't get out. I started screaming because I'm like, okay, if I scream loud enough, maybe they'll go away. And I'm loud. And I was screaming and crying, and I was like, I can't handle this. I can't let this happen. This has come too far. This is too much. This is the end. She's gone. They're taking me. Something's going down. It's big time. This is the end of something. And I was like, you're going to die tonight. You're dead.
I was at a 50, let's say, if we're going to use the 100 scale. So I went from 50 to 100 rapidly, with business cards in my hand, ready to do professional readings. And they were professional because, after all, you had to have an exchange of energy. So you had to be paid for your reading. That dollar bill, it didn't matter what you charged, that was the exchange of energy. People are going to psychic mediums because they've lost somebody and they want to make a connection. They're grieving. Sometimes it could be years later, but they just they want that connection with the deceased person. It's very hard to let people go. People go they're curious, they're lonely, they want information about their life and what to do. I'm a single mom, living at home, shopping at the Gap. You wouldn't have known I was a New Ager at all. I wouldn't have known I was a New Ager. I wouldn't have known I was a diviner. I just thought I was helping people with this gift. So I would start seeing twinkling lights around people's heads, and I knew something was about to happen. I knew that I was about to get information, or I would see, orbs and things like that, and then I would be able to say, okay, so-and-so, I'm a psychic medium, I'm about to get some information about you, would you like to hear it? Yes. I mean, I would be getting ultrasounds, and the ultrasound person, and I would just be like, I'm a psychic medium, I'm getting some information, your brother passed away, he was in a boating accident, da-da-da. Yep. And she validated all that information, and sure enough, became one of my clients. So my readings typically were, I would sit there with a notebook and a pen because automatic writing was almost always a part of my readings, where I would start it might start with scribbling, but then I would start getting my signs and symbols. The rest of the reading would be downloaded information. So just the way that you can almost hear your own voice in your head when you're thinking about something, except that they're not your thoughts. Like imagine I'm sitting here and all of a sudden I start hearing Barbara, died in December, or that was your cousin, or that was your mother, female, like all these things start coming at you and you just start saying them, I start writing them. Sometimes I also would see a familiar spirit. And a familiar spirit is a demon masquerading, dressing up, pretending to be a person. Somebody that you loved, somebody that you would have known, somebody, or just somebody. So I could see a woman, let's say, I could describe the woman or I could describe the man. I was doing the readings for many years. This was my livelihood as well at that point. I'm hugging people at the end of the readings. I'm crying with them who lost their spouse, who lost their child. So as this was going on, I was going down the rabbit hole of destruction. More and more, these entities were around me all of the time. I was always scared. Going to these group readings, of course, it was at night, and I was by myself. So when I would drive home from these group readings, I wasn't going alone. Some of them were coming with me. So I'd be driving, and I would see familiar spirits. And as I would drive close, just dissipate. But they'd be in the car with me, too. Like in the rearview mirror, I'd see in the back seat. And I was afraid of that. So yeah, you know, there I was again battling. Why is it okay when I think when I think that the entity is mom or dad and we're hugging and all this stuff, but now they're tormenting me. Now they're showing themselves here, and that's scary. So one of the group readings that I was hired to do, this time the people chose to have the 15-minute readings, the private 15-minute readings. And I didn't like the feeling I got immediately when I started channeling. It was just like this very cold, horrible feeling. And the information that I started receiving about this, so it was this guy, her uncle, and I'm seeing newspaper clippings and this very sinister, like all this sinister stuff and gunshots, all this stuff, right? Really reminded me of mafia type situation. And I start repeating what I'm hearing and what I'm getting, what's being downloaded, and she's looking at me with daggers in her eyes. So she said, yeah, that was my uncle, and he shot me, and he shot my brother. So I guess, it made the newspaper. But the information was information she understood and validated. But now she's looking at me as though I'm the uncle. I wanted to get out of there. I was like, she hated me. You could see the hatred in this woman's face. I was sick after that reading. I went home. I was sick for the better part of a week. As a New Ager, you believe that you can control the spiritual realm and that you have some sort of a power and that you can determine who's good, who's bad, and you can filter it out if you burn enough sage, if you say enough incantations, if you imagine enough white light around yourself. And so I did these things. Things were actually getting pretty disastrous in my life on a personal level. That went on for some time. The oppression became so intense.
I started going to church, ironically, at the same time that I had this spirit guide. And the spirit guide manipulated me in such a way where I thought that it worked together, that God had provided my grandfather to me to help me. Now, at the same time, I had another person. She is my sister by marriage. Now, she was into witchcraft. She was deep in the witchcraft, and for evil purposes. She was not a good witch. She was into witchcraft. But she got wind of my ability of seeing my grandfather, and she wanted to use me with what she was doing. And she approached me when I was in the 8th grade about working with her. But the way she approached me is that she waited for a sign. She wanted to find out if it was time for us to get together. And as it turns out, at the time that I was having a dream, I was taking a nap, she was having a vision, and we were sharing the exact same vision of something that was taking place here in Florida. I was living up in Indiana at the time. We visualized this little boy drowning in a canal. And I woke up from the dream, and I thought that was a strange dream. Well, my sister, she woke up from the vision, and she called the house. She goes, well, I just had a dream that a little boy drowned in a canal. And I said, well, that's crazy. I did too. And we didn't know at the time, but precisely at that moment, a neighbor here in Florida was over at my sister's house, and their little boy got outside at the age of 2, drowned in the canal. And for her, that hammered it home that she and I were to work together. So she approached me saying I had a gift from God. So I started working with her on witchcraft. Well, everything started falling apart in my life. I was having nightmares. Mentally, I started getting depressed. At the same time all this was taking place, I had began having sleepwalking issues. I would go outside in my sleep. One evening, it was about 2:30 in the morning, I'm walking down my street in my pajamas. It's about 20 degrees outside in February, and I'm convinced that I needed to commit suicide. This voice is telling me to step out onto the highway and it will be over quick. Well, I did. I stepped out into the highway. Not a single vehicle, nothing. And my grandfather appeared to me again and said, "Do you want to just be with me? We will guide you." And I said, "Okay, yes, I'll do that." And as soon as I said, "Yes, I'll do that," I opened my eyes up and I was standing with my hand on the doorknob. I'd never gone outside. They created a vision within me that made me convinced that I went outside down the road to that highway. I never left the house. I began having anger issues, and I was a different person. My sister was dating this one man who was very, very, very violent, and I didn't want her to do it, so while she burnt candles to make him want her, I was burning candles to make him go away. She wanted to put a curse on whoever was interfering with what she was doing, and I went to her house, and she, in this particular instance, instead of having red candles out to do our normal thing, she had black candles, and the room was dark, and she called on demons and Satan to find the person who's interfering with her and destroy that person. She had no idea that it was me. And at that moment, that was the first time that I literally could see manifestations of eyes from behind her. And I could hear the snickering of these creatures. And I knew that I'd stepped in something and I was not protected. And that's when everything started falling apart. Now I have a stereo that's by the door, and the speakers came flying off the wall. Everything, the stereo itself pushed forward and was hanging off to the side. The lid came off, hit me on the back as I'm ducking. The speakers hit the floor. That is the first time I saw a true manifestation of physical objects moving around. Whatever was going on, it was getting stronger and stronger. Later, I got married. We were playing around and she was chasing me, I was chasing her, you know, young couples, and she accidentally slammed the door on my hand. Now there's one thing that kept happening with me. Anytime I got angry, I would lose memory. I would evidently go into a rage. And the next thing I remember, I'm standing in the bathroom, because I ran into the bathroom to get away from her. She closed the door. The next thing I remember, I'm standing there in the bathroom with the top of the toilet lid above my head, ready to slam it down. And I'm confused. I'm like, what happened? And the bathroom's a wreck. I walk out, I'm trying to find my wife. I don't know where she's at. She's in our bedroom, and I walk up to her and I said, what happened? And she said, there was more than one. I said, what do you mean more than one? She says, there was more than one. I go, one what? She goes, you were in that bathroom screaming. She says, but I heard other voices with you screaming. And I said, what's wrong with me? I don't know what's wrong. She goes, you need spiritual help. There's something going on.
We started going to homes that were haunted. Before this, I was just interested in the paranormal, looking for ghosts, but now I was helping families. Then I had a case. It was a man that was being physically assaulted by a spirit, and he went to the hospital. Before the investigation started, the young man left to go fishing. They were trying to give us room to do the investigation of the entire house. So while we were there, it got pretty late. We had a few things happen, nothing major. It was like a door opening and shutting while we were asking questions. And then when the man come in, he asked us, he says, well, if you let me go in with you, maybe something will happen, because whatever it is, it doesn't like me. Well, he started provoking the spirit, because at this point we were trying to get a reaction. Well, just suddenly, out of nowhere, we heard this loud bang. And it was so loud, it literally sounded like something crashed on the outside of the house or something. It was a loud smack and bang at the same time. Well, the man, instead of facing this way, he was now against the wall on the ground, and there was a big dent in the file cabinet where his head hit. We started yelling for the people on the front porch. They had the monitor set out there, watching on the monitors. And we started yelling for them to come in. They finally got the guy off the floor, and he started becoming combative. He was angry, he was upset, he was crying, and he started yelling for this thing to, come out, and he was just so angry. Well, come to find out, the reason it took them a few minutes to come in was when he was thrown into the wall, the grandmother was thrown off the front porch. This happened at the same time. Now, I must say that during our dowels and rods sessions that we were having earlier that night, we were getting answers that the spirit in the home was a little girl. That was an awful lot of strength coming from a little girl. So after this all happened, I started looking into mimicking. Mimicking is when a demonic spirit will pretend to be, like, for instance, a young child, or say a lady in white, something that's vulnerable, somebody that's vulnerable that your heart would appeal to, that you would, feel bad for. And I realized there was an awful lot of cases that seemed to be mimickers. And even in the ghost hunting community, they all believe that there is something called mimicking. But the problem is, we knew that they did it sometimes. We just didn't know that they do it all the time. There was a weekend that me and my daughter went to St. Augustine, Florida, and that's a place, a very big hotspot for the paranormal community. And we took a tour. We kind of left the group and we went and found a little secluded area, and we started doing an EVP session. We just started asking questions. All of a sudden, I was asking for the spirit to reveal itself to me in some way. Next thing you know, my husband calls me on my cell phone. And he said, "Dana, I don't know where you're at or what you're doing, but please stop." And he said, "Whatever you're doing, it's stirring stuff up here at the house." There was a ball. It was on the floor in front of him. And next thing you know, the ball just started rolling by itself. It went through the dining room, went through the kitchen, come out on the other side of the kitchen and across the hallway into the other doorway that come to the living room, come all the way through, and it stopped right in front of him. Then there was another instant. I had bought a book. It was about deliverance and prayers. It was an audio book, and I left it playing on my nightstand one night on my laptop. Well, my husband felt something come in the room, and it somehow it woke him up. He felt something. And then he heard the prayers being said on the laptop. He started to say the prayers along with the laptop. Next thing you know, as soon as he started to say the prayers, the fan in our room went flying across the room and hit the wall. And he woke me up. He was like, Dana, cut that off. And he said, whatever it is, it doesn't like that. But not realizing it was actually not just that it was playing, it was the fact that he was saying the prayers with it that made it do something. One night, we were in the living room, and my grandson was in my bedroom watching TV. And something told me to get up and check on him. He was sitting up on the end of the bed, looking like he was afraid of something. He jumps off the bed and he starts rubbing on the floor, and he said, "I don't know, it went in the floor or something." Well, when he did that, I knew that whatever it was that was in our home was now starting to show itself to my grandson. So later I asked my grandson, "Do you remember what that looked like?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Could you draw it for me?" And this is exactly what he drew on that piece of paper. This doesn't look like a ghost. This looks like an alien. Now at this point, we started getting really desperate.
And as I'm just pressing and looking, and I was screaming and crying, and I said, Jesus, God, Jesus, help me. I looked to my left, and in the kitchen was Jesus. He was not facing me. He was I could see his profile, but I was like, I went like this, and I'm like, oh my God. And I looked back, and he was still there. And I was like, Jesus. And I looked back to my right, the eyes and the figures at the door, gone. I looked back again, he's gone. Those things are gone. Everything for the accumulation of 2 years, that all the fear, all the damage, all the psychosis, all the experiences, all the high strangeness, everything that had happened, and all of that baggage was like somebody took a steel dragnet and just pulled it off my back, and I got on my knees and I started crying like a baby. I had no fear. I had zero fear. Everything was gone. I don't know how long I cried, but I prayed and prayed and prayed, and I just was like, that was Jesus. I know that was Jesus. I was like, Jesus, you saved me, you saved me, you saved me, you saved me, you saved me. And from that day, nothing ever happened again otherworldly. Nothing ever happened. I never saw anything again. I never got attacked.
The oppression became so intense, came to this moment where I call it the near destruction moment. The oppression was so thick, the oppression was so heavy that I cried out to Jesus Christ. In the blink of an eye, you could say knee jerk, whatever you want to say, end of yourself moment. He showed up. God was there. God was already at work, because there was a peace that came over me. I was actually really confused after that. I didn't want to be a psychic anymore, but I didn't know why. So now that's going in. It's like I'm in this spiritual vulnerability. That goes on. I end up going back to the readings, do some more readings. And then 10 months later, oh God, I had a date with my good friend Beth, who I met in the divination group that I went into years prior. We were very good friends. I used to read her family and friends. And in between the last time I had seen Beth and this time, Beth had been miraculously saved. I had no idea. And so she comes over for dinner and she starts talking about Jesus and the church that she's attending and all this stuff, right? So she invites me to go to this church. And I said, no. Hey, I was good. Okay. 4 weeks later, I woke up on a Sunday and I had this feeling, if you will, to go to that church that day. I wanted to go. And this church was a non-denominational, Bible-based church, not like anything I had experienced ever. It was overwhelming. It was huge. The joy that you could see, the love that you could see. So I'm taking all of this in. These people have their arms up. I'm like, what are these people doing? And they're singing. But of course, I'm going to jump in with the crowd. I'm a team player, so I'm going to sing these songs with the people. And right when the lyric, Jesus saved me, I flashed back, quick flashback, to the moment I cried out his name, to the moment that was him that day, that was me, Jen. I saved you. I'm with you. I was instantly free. Delivered, free, because I put my full faith and trust in him. I fully believed that day. I heard the gospel that day, and I was indwelled with the Holy Spirit that day.
Well, as coincidence would have it, that Sunday there was a guest pastor that came to our church, and his subject matter that night was witchcraft, spiritual warfare, and the dangers of the New Age movement. It's like it was tailor-made for me. And he gave his message, and I literally hid behind a couple of congregants because I know he was looking at me. Did not want to be there. I felt uncomfortable. And at the end of the service, I went forward and I went up to him and I said, your message meant a lot to me. He said, thank you, son. And I knew that wasn't what I wanted to say. Finally, it just blurted out. I said, I want to love God, but I can't. I remember the pastor getting with me, and my wife's off to the side, and the first thing that he asked me, he says, "Is Jesus Lord?" I said, "Yes, he is." He said, "Well, tell me that Jesus is Lord. Just tell me in your own words that Jesus Christ is Lord." And I go, "Well, Jesus is." He goes, "Say it." I go, "Well, he is. He is." And I'm thinking to myself, why can't I say Jesus Christ is Lord? And he says, "Do you renounce everything that you've done in witchcraft?" And I said, "Yes, I do. Right now, I renounce it." And one by one, as I asked for forgiveness and asked that I did away with anything that had to do with the Ouija board, had anything to do with the witchcraft practices I was doing, I was so ready to give my life to Christ. And at the end of it, he says, "Don, is Jesus Lord?" And I said, "Pastor, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior." And everything changed that day, and my life was never the same. And we began praying for my sister. The following year, she prayed to receive Christ.
Now at this point, we started getting really desperate. I started hanging up rosary beads in over all my windows, my doorways. I had Bibles open in every room. I was collecting Bibles. I was buying them. I was putting them in my rooms with wide open. I was using it as a tangible weapon instead of applying it to my life like we're supposed to do. But the thing about it is, no matter what we used, it would always stop the spirits, but then they would come back. And, it was almost as if they were trying to pretend that it worked. When you take your faith and you put it in an object, you're taking your faith off Jesus. No wonder all these, rosary beads in my house isn't working, the sage isn't working, all these other things aren't working. It's Jesus and Him alone that's going to give you freedom.
Even a young man, I was hired to ease his fears about death. He was 17 and he had a brain tumor. And I went there, and obviously looking back now as a born-again believer in Jesus Christ, if I only could have, if I only could have shared the gospel. I'm a demon communicator there to help this boy, and he died. It was within the next couple of weeks after that. And I was heartbroken.
It might seem like fun to contact these spirits and everything, but these spirits are not who they say they are. They're not our dead loved ones. And the more you're interested in it, you're opening a door up to things happening in your own home. Pretty much everybody I knew that was in the paranormal also experienced paranormal activity. But there was one thing that was also with all of it that gave it away, was the fact that it was hostile to the name of Jesus.
You got people who believe in the aliens. You got people who believe the ghost stories. You got people who believe, in witchcraft or New Age. But everything's the same. Everyone feels special. I felt special. Each one of them feels special. It's the same playbook for all of it.
And then with the background of the pride, which is no surprise when you're serving the devil. That's his characteristic. That's who he is. There's going to be something that's going to make you feel like you're doing good. Look at you. You're privy to the secret information. People are coming to you for this.
Through the entire experience, I'm always, the end of the world's coming. I'm part of saving it. I'm special. I'm gonna play a pivotal role in, helping the humanity. No, really, those thoughts were in my head for sure the whole time, and very strong.
That because your information and your control and everything else is coming from liars, demons are liars. Yeah, they'll give you accurate information. They have to dangle the proverbial carrot in front of your face to get you to come back. So the medium and the psychic, the tarot cards, yeah, they'll tell you some things that sound about right, that already happened. But here's the thing. They don't know the future. Demons do not know the future. They are not omniscient. So now you're placing your faith and trust in demons, in liars, but they've got you right where they want you because they told you a few things. And you're going to have to keep going back and back and back because you will never be fulfilled by the lie.
We live in a world right now that is owned and ruled by Satan. He's been allowed to have it. So if you believe in the world, then you're following the father of lies. He is a liar. He's a deceiver. He's a roaring lion out to seek and destroy you and devour you, your family, your wife, and everything you know, and to take your soul. That's it.
You are giving consent to demons to afflict you when you enter into divination, when you enter into the occult, when you enter into sin.
We've got all these things that people were telling us that was happening in their homes with the light anomalies, the sleep paralysis, all these other things. And it was the same things that people that have experiences with the alien phenomena were actually the same thing people with the ghost phenomena and this spirit guide phenomena. This is all much bigger. This is one huge deception.
If I had a minute to warn people about the occult, about who demons are, I would have to say, what you see isn't what you get. So what you're looking at with your human eye is not all that's going on around us. There is an actual battle going on, and witchcraft is directly serving demons. Demons are liars, demons are evil, demons hate God, and they hate mankind. That means they hate you, and they want to do anything that they can to destroy you. And one of those ways is through mediumship, psychic communication, Ouija boards, all tools of divination. That is run and operated and authored by the devil. And you have to make a decision who you're going to serve. The liar, the cheater, the manipulator, the thief, the murderer, or the way, the truth, and the life. I know I want truth. I know I want everlasting life. What about you?
How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed.
Welcome back to Insight. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Joe, man, that's like Grand Slam. Really
I
good
know.
stuff.
It gets me every time I watch it. It's like watching it the first time, every
Mhm.
time.
Yeah, that's just so many great testimonies in there. And I love how you hit every angle of it, the deception.
Yep.
Not every angle, but a lot of the angles that we see. And I got to tell you, I don't know, when I first came across your work at CE4 Research, it was probably 2009 or 2010. And I was doing research. Now, I was a Christian, but I was thinking there's something going on in this spiritual warfare. And, I didn't know all this stuff that I know now. And so I was looking into ghost hunting. I was looking into the alien abductions, the UFO phenomena, all this stuff. And I was researching it. And what happened was I got so deep into the ghost hunting stuff, watching television shows and hearing testimonies of other people. I started having some weird stuff. Like I opened a door that I was not prepared for. So I had to quickly close that door and renounce what I was doing because I thought I was just doing innocent research, and it turned out I'm getting involved in some deep spiritual warfare that I'm just naive to. And so before we get to the documentary, I was thinking about you and all the research you've done. I mean, you've interviewed what 700-800 people now, probably more by now.
Well, plenty more.
Yeah. That have had alien abduction experiences, and you see a pattern, you see what's going on, you see the lie that this deception's all about. So maybe if you can talk to the people right now about your angle with the UFO abductions and the similarities and patterns you see.
Well, what I found 30 years ago, I started into this as not a Christian, into the UFO research. I started out as an agnostic humanist, but it wasn't long before it pulled me right into the New Age because of the connection that the New Age has, and you saw that through the documentary. There's so many connections with the paranormal, and I classify the ufology as paranormal also. But they're just listening to the the testimonies in the documentary. You see, and we never coached them on this. We just let them talk. I was there when they did the interviews, and it's amazing what we were hearing from each of them, showing the connection of all of it together being the same source. And that was just amazing to have that all come out like that. That's what makes this whole thing so powerful. It backs up my research, of 30 years. In the beginning, as I saw the connection with the New Age, I had to explore that, and that's when it pulled me right into it because of the seduction of the New Age. That seduction, if you're not aware, is you can have your spirituality without accountability, and who wouldn't want that? Nobody wants to be held accountable for the things we've done wrong. It's painful, but God, He demands that accountability through a relationship with Him. When I became a believer and I started looking at it from a Christian perspective, from a biblical perspective, I said, as a Christian, I have a new perspective to look at this whole phenomenon at, a new set of eyes, should you say. As I applied that perspective, that's when things started to show up. Things that didn't make sense started to make sense. And the answers that I was so desperately looking for, trying to understand this phenomenon, started to just fall in place from a Christian perspective, from a biblical perspective. And that's when I came across the first case. Bill Defendahl was his name. I actually just talked to Bill on Facebook Messenger today. He's now living down, and he's retired with his wife down in Panama. But I keep reminding him that testimony of his, that first testimony I ever came across of his testimony, of being able to stop it through the name and authority of Jesus Christ. It still reaches people today. That testimony is a lifetime of aid and help to people that have been looking for a hope from this terrible experience of alien abduction. And doesn't matter where he retired off to in a remote place, he's still busy. His testimony still lives out there, and it just keeps going over time. 30 years later, it's still reaching people. People contact me and go, "I'm so blown away by that testimony. It's what brought me to the truth." And I'm still just like, wow, this is something the Lord brought to me. And that's when I realized that if his is true, there had to be more out there. And then through the research and talking to a lot of the secular researchers at the time, I realized that they too had come across, they admitted it, they had come across similar types of cases. And that's when I knew I needed to go find them. And over the years with CE4 Research, that's what we've been doing, is looking for those testimonies, getting people to come forward and share the testimony of deliverance from this horrible experience through a relationship with Jesus Christ, calling on the name of Jesus, like you saw with Jason. Um, Over the years, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds. Last I counted was like about 700. But the testimonies still come in. Every time we do a podcast like this, even the other podcasts I've done with you, people have reached out and said, I saw that Blender show you did, and I want to tell you that I too am one of those testimonies. Please use my story. So every week I'm getting new ones in from all around the country, sometimes around the world. In my book, Piercing the Cosmic Veil, there's actually some in there from other countries, where people had gotten involved in the phenomenon unknowingly, uh, what it was actually about, and got tied up in it, and things turned bad. And they reach out to Jesus, and they too become a testimony. And our mission with CE4 Research has been the whole time to gather as many of these testimonies as we can to show the world, look, this is the evidence. How much do you need to see? And I remind people when I do my talks, I said, tell me a number because we're going to show it to you. Whatever it takes for you to be convinced that what we're showing you is real, I said, we're going to give it. We're going to have that number for you. And those testimonies just keep coming in and keep coming in and keep coming in.
Amazing. Yeah. Joe, there's an argument. I've seen this quite a bit on social media with some of our fellow Christians that do research on alien phenomena. And, God bless them. I love a lot of those guys. I disagree with them on a lot. I'm biting my tongue on some things. I really do enjoy. I like them. They're, as people, as brothers in Christ. The claim I hear a lot is, well, yeah, they use the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus, and it ends for the moment, but then the terror continues. And I mean, I think we've discussed this on several shows before. I mean, you got to close the door. You can't keep the door open.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's there is a process to becoming the new man the Bible talks about, and that's so important. And there's a process you go through to get to that point to where you become that new man in Christ. It's not something that happens as soon as you give your life to Christ. It takes a work. It takes repentance from all the things that you were involved with. It takes education on what God's word is about, what he's asking for, and what he wants from us. And that takes time. It takes good mentoring through, a Bible-based teacher, or, fellowship with other believers that can help you move along. That's why the church is so important. People say, oh, I don't need to go to a church. I worship God on my own. Well, there's an importance to having fellowship. It's that support. It's that, it's being in the presence of other believers helps us stay the walk. And that is very important. And the thing is having a group of people that will pray for you, that's important. And you're not going to get that if you're not in fellowship with some other people that are affiliated with a church. And a sad thing is a lot of the experiencers, they are so excited about being delivered from the demonic and from their activity with these types of paranormal that they want to share it, but I have to remind them that's not your place to do in that church. Your place in that church is to go and learn the word of God and have people teach you the word of God and teach you the walk with the Lord. I said, that story isn't for everybody, so that's where they get discouraged sometimes. They say, nobody wants to hear. These people aren't open to all of this. I'm saying it's not their time, Go there, get yourself grounded, get yourself, a good walk with the Lord. Let them help you do that. I said, if there's somebody there that needs to hear this, the Lord's going to let you know that. The Lord will tell you when it's time to speak. And once I get them to understand all of that, then they're more comfortable to go to church because it gives you an opportunity to praise and worship the Lord. It gives you an opportunity to fellowship amongst other believers and learn how they're doing their walk with the Lord. And it gives you a support group, which is something that we all need. The disciples that were walking with Jesus, they didn't go out by themselves. Jesus sent them out two by two. The reason for that is because they had backup, they had support, that somebody had their back. Each other had their back. And that's something that's so important in this field of dealing with the demonic realm.
Yeah, good stuff. I want to go over to a scripture here, 2 Corinthians 11. Sorry, there we go. Starting in verse 12, it says, "And I will keep on doing what I am doing in order to cut the ground from under those who want an opportunity to be considered equal with us in the things they boast about. For such people are false prophets, deceitful workers, masquerading as apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. It is not surprising, then, if his servants also masquerade as servants of righteousness. Their end will be what their actions deserve." That's Paul writing to the Corinthian church. And, Joe, that angel of light scripture is such a key scripture in the spiritual warfare battle that we as believers are involved in. And if you don't understand that these demons come as angels of light, Joe, how many testimonies have you heard of these abduction experiences that they were chosen, right? They were a chosen vessel for such a time as this, and that we're bringing new spiritual intelligence to the world through you, and you're very important, right? They build you up, they build that ego, but it always ends up in the same place as you go further and further into the stuff. And it doesn't matter if it's the ghost chasing stuff, it doesn't matter if it's the abductions, psychic readings. It always leads to a very, very dark place. We've had Doreen Virtue on. I know she's a good friend of yours. You
Oh, yes.
Had her come on. Doreen was the #1 New Age guru in the world.
Yeah.
And she was selling millions and millions of books, bestseller lists. She was selling out conferences around the world, appeared on Oprah and some of the big talk shows of the day. And she was miserable. Her life started becoming miserable, and she started realizing something's not right. And she read, I think it was Deuteronomy 10 when it talks about divination. And she realized, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I'm doing. What am I doing? I thought I was a Christian. And I think that's the greatest deception the devil has, is he uses the tools that God has given us, the gifts and spiritual giftings he's given to all of us. They're available to us. And he just tilts it on its side and says, oh, I'm going to show you a better way, like a cheat code or something.
Yeah. It's counterfeiting the gifts of the Spirit. That's what the enemy does. He counterfeits everything. I saw a beautiful example of that, and it blew me away because that was in my early years. But I was in Roswell, one of the festivals we were at. This was many years ago, and when I first started going out there, Pastor Chris Ward was with us. He was a third member of Alien Resistance with me and Guy Malone, and he passed away a few years ago. But Pastor Ward was amazing man dealing with spiritual warfare. We were out there in Roswell, and there was a gal that used to come to visit Guy at his shop there that he had when he first opened up there in Roswell. And she lived out in the desert, had a little place by herself. She liked being out there with nature and everything. But she had this thing about she could read people. She knew things about people that she shouldn't have known. And she tried to share that with us, share that with Pastor Ward. And Pastor Ward, he just sat there and listened to her, and she's doing her thing, wherever that information's coming from. And then Pastor Ward patiently just listened and calmly said at the end, he says, my turn. And he started saying things about her that the Lord was giving him, which is word of knowledge that we call it as a believer, And she said, wow. She says, what is your connection? She was blown away by there was something bigger than what she was connected to. So Lord wins out in the end. But all these things that you saw in the documentary, the abilities that Jen was talking about, these are counterfeit gifts of the Spirit. The enemy's using it, and it's limited on what it can do. God knows all, but the enemy doesn't. The enemy can only give you bits and pieces to seduce you, to thinking that you're special, to thinking that you're getting special knowledge. But it's not. It's all a counterfeit.
Yeah, it's all secretive stuff, supposedly that's coming that God's hiding from you. That's always
Yeah.
another one. Speaking of Jenna, I know her and Doreen have done shows together also, speaking about their New Age experiences together. And for me, before I became a Christian, Joe, I was coming out of the Catholic faith, questioning things. I'm like, I don't understand this. I've been taught something here. I do believe there's a God. I believe Jesus is Lord, but something wasn't right for me. And I remember I dabbled just briefly in New Age. I mean, I was like looking into like crystals, and reading New Age books and some meditation things. And I never really practiced it, but I was right on the verge of like going into that and saying, well, maybe this is the path to truth. And I just thank God every day that didn't happen and that I didn't go in, down that road and being led into deception. But I think today, I mean, other than the alien presence, and I use that in quotes, the New Age is probably, witchcraft is probably like the closest cousin, and again in quotes, to Christianity. It resembles a lot of Christian principles. They use a lot of the Bible. And that's the deception. Satan did that in the garden. So he's going to, of course, truth is going to be in all false religions. Otherwise, no one's going to follow it. There has to be some
Sure.
truth there, right? It's just
Just
got
a
to,
little bit.
just a little, some breadcrumbs, just so you come down that path. And it's so deceiving. And I'm glad that's what I love about this documentary. I mean, you kind of cover a bunch of different angles here.
Yeah.
And you can see that these are real people, just like you and I. It's not actors. These are real testimonies of people that have experienced this stuff. And all of them in the beginning were deceived. They all thought it was good practices they were involved in. So, I mean, that's why it's so important as believers that we speak the truth in love. Of course, we're not here to argue and call you names and all that stuff, but you do need to understand in this world there is deception. And I think it was Jason that mentioned in the movie, Satan's the god of this world.
Yeah.
Jesus, he said it is finished on the cross, but there's a day when he will return and finish it completely, and he will regain what was lost by Adam in the garden. But until that day, we're up against some dark stuff. And I'm hopeful, Joe, because the last 10 years, there has been a great awakening happening. There's a huge, huge awakening going on right now.
I hope everybody caught the similarities that are the things that connect all of those different aspects of the paranormal together. The alien UFO stuff and divination and spiritism and the ghost hunting. There were so many things in that documentary that, and like I said, we didn't leave them on what they were saying. But every time I would hear something, that connection come out, I just look over at Dean going, wow, we couldn't have asked for any better testimonies. But the idea of orbs runs the gamut across all the different paranormal. The one, Jason doesn't talk about it in his testimony. Thankfully, he was delivered from that before it ever got to that point. But one of the things that I talk about a lot is, and I've talked about it with you, is the idea of seeing dead relatives during the experience. Jen was talking to dead relatives. Dana was chasing dead relatives. Don was talking to a dead relative. And of course, we got cases where alien abduction experiencers are encountering dead relatives on a craft during an experience. None of that makes sense, but it's all showing that there's a connection. It's all the same source all the way through, because we know the dead don't speak to us. The Bible tells us that. What you're seeing there is not your dead relative. It's a counterfeit. It's the enemy counterfeiting to try and control you. And that is what grabs people the most, is being able to, come in contact with a departed one. I mean, people that, like Jen talked about, people in mourning, they want so much to not let it go. They want to keep that connection even in the afterlife, but it's not there. There is no afterlife. We sleep until the return of the Lord, and then he'll call us all up, and then we'll all be together, but not until then.
That is the appeal. I mean, I know when people are in deep sorrow and mourning, that there is a desire to be able to speak to your loved one. Of course, there would be.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't there? I think there's plenty of accounts in the Bible when angels appear as men.
Yeah.
And so, Joe, I think when we used to do the blender with Mike, we used to talk about the meat suits, right? And I always thought, like, okay, well, maybe they just have like this spiritual closet they go into, and it's got a bunch of costumes in there, like when people go out for Halloween shopping. Maybe they just go out and pick a costume to wear. I don't know how the angels do it. I have no idea. We have the Genesis 6 account of the Watchers and all that stuff falling, and I don't know how angels bred with women and all that stuff. Right? I've heard every theory, and I don't know if that's for us to know at this time.
Yeah.
There's books that are extra biblical that suggest some things, but I don't think that's really for us to know anyway. I mean, as human beings, God has given us enough truth to pry into the truth and use that to win the battles we need to win in this life until he comes back and takes us home.
Sure.
And if we don't, if we start going down these paths, excuse me, of following these, they're tales, Joe. I mean, that's all they are. They're just science fiction tales, and they're portrayed as truth a lot of times. And a lot of them are by our Christian brothers and sisters. Like I know they believe the stuff. I don't question their belief in it, but we have to be very careful that we're not going to extra biblical sources that have no evidence, no foundation underneath them.
Sure.
And because that's going to be part of the great deception too. And that's scary for me, man. I mean, like the scariest verse in the Bible, everybody always says it's Matthew 7, right? He says, "Depart from me, I never knew you, you workers of iniquity," right? And I obviously, I think if we're following him with our whole heart, mind, soul, and strength, then you're going to know you're bought by the blood of Jesus Christ, and you're okay. But man, it's scary if you're starting to go off in little rabbit trails and following things that aren't biblical. You're gonna Joe, I've been trying not to say this word, but I have to say it. I hate to say that we all have agendas. Let's face it. All of us have agendas. As a Christian, my agenda here, having this platform, is to hopefully win souls to Christ. Like that's the bottom line. But there's other people that they sell books, they sell movies, they sell a lot of things. And once you go down a rabbit trail and you've conveyed that message time and time again, it's really hard to go back on what you told people and say, well, I might have been wrong on this, or you're going to find things that line up with your truth so that you can keep conveying the message. And that's a scary place to be, man. And I'm not calling out anybody in particular. This is not, I don't really have anybody in mind. I've just seen this for the last decade, a lot of it.
A lot of it too is, these Christians that are doing that, they get to the point to where they've monetarized their message so much that they're relying on the monetary side of it to support themselves. And that's the one thing that I said I would not do.
Right.
Of course, yes, I sell books, but the only reason I sell the books is because people were asking something for tangible to put in their hand to share with their neighbor or share with somebody that they knew was, under this demonic spell, and something to give them to be able to.
Don't make me pull up the picture of you in your new Ferrari.
I wish I had a new Ferrari, but that's not something I need. I don't need the new Ferrari.
No.
But the idea, of monetizing that is, I can't even think about doing that. The books I sell, I got a stack of them at work. There's thousands of people that I work with there at the company I work with there at Kennedy Space Center. And I stack the books up on my desk to where people can see them, and people constantly come to me, and go, "You wrote these books?" I said, "Yeah." I said, I said, "Are you into the subject matter?" They said, "Oh yeah, I watch Ancient Aliens all the time," and blah blah blah. And I'm going, "Here," I sign it and I hand it to them. I give away. I sell the books so that I can give away books. If people don't know how Amazon works with book sales and publishing, It doesn't cost a dime to upload a book to Amazon Kindle and have it published. Listen to me, it doesn't cost a dime. You can publish yourself, write your story, put it up there. Somebody's going to purchase it. All you got to do is advertise, you know. But the way Amazon works is they take a percentage of the book sale because that's their production cost and a little bit of profit because they got lots of people doing this. So they take the cost of the book production and a little bit of profit, and then the rest is your royalty for the book. So you also have the opportunity as an author, it's your book on Amazon. They have a little part on there that if you want to order your books and have them yourself in your hand, like to go to a conference and sell them at a table, instead of people buying them on Amazon, you get a deal where you can buy the book at cost, author cost, they call it, which is the most minimum cheap cost that enables me to buy a large quantity of them with my own cash or from the sales of people buying the book on Amazon at full price. I take that profit and I buy them at cost just so I can give them away to make sure that people have an opportunity to get the message that we're trying to share here, an opportunity to read the truth and hear the truth where otherwise they would have just walked away. Oh, I don't have any cash. Or, oh, not right now.
Mm-hmm.
No, if you stick it in their hand and sign it for them, you just made a friend. Okay. People are so blown away that I give them a book and I signed it for them. They're like, oh, I got to give this to my father-in-law. He will love this, you know? And I hear this all the time. I don't live off the books. I don't monetize my mission that I'm doing. I've been blessed for doing the Lord's work with a great job, a job that is my dream job for the second time. Dealing with rockets is something that is my passion. Dealing with space is my passion. And I love being around it. I love being around these huge rockets. I'm right there standing under them all, you know, during the day. It's just so amazing to me. And that's my gift from the Lord to freely give this information out there. And that's a difference in if you're trying to rely on what you're trying to share for money. Because anytime that it goes sour or it wanes of interest, then you're in trouble. You either got to come up with a new gig or go to work somewhere. And I never wanted to have to do that, you know? Mm-hmm. And I've talked with you about this before, and I base it on a scripture from the Bible where Jesus tells us, he says that for those who do my work, he says, I will meet your needs. And I took that as a promise. And I can tell you that promise is real. And because I've lived it for 32 years, you know, I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars of my own money over the years. But it's amazing that the Lord gives it back through a great job and, you know, through benefits that I've been able to get at work and things like that. So I stay in that mode. If somebody come to me and said, you know, I'd really like to read that, but I don't have any money for it, sign it, hand it to them. There you go. You're going to have questions. Come back to me. Let's talk. And it's amazing how many do come back and talk because they're reading something for the first time that they've never heard before. And nobody's been willing to share it to them, especially the secular researchers in this realm. You know, like I said, they've known about it, but they won't talk about it. And it's something that it's been the research that I have, these testimonies, it's the best kept secret in the UFO research community. You know, you're not gonna hear what I got on television. I'm not going to be on Ancient Aliens telling this whole thing can be stopped through the name and authority of Jesus Christ. Nope, that'd be the end of their show.
Yeah, I was just going to say season 20 would be over or whatever they're at now.
Yeah. You know, I told people over the years, I said a lot of times I don't get invited to talk or don't get invited for a podcast because people, they want to, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not a game changer. Okay. They like that. They like game changers. They like people that are challenging, but I'm not a game changer. If you bring my work to the show, I'm a game stopper. And that's not what they want because they're all got their little hooks in and they're all relying on, income or numbers of hits on their show or like that. The main focus isn't to get the truth out. It's just to get numbers, and to make monetary gain on it. But nope, that's not what I do.
Back in the day, we would have called you a buzzkill.
Yeah, buzzkill. That's true.
And I can definitely attest to Joe giving out free books. Joe, you sent me a whole bunch of these.
Yeah.
And I've given a bunch out.
Well, I'll have to send
great-
you my new ones now.
Yes, I would definitely enjoy that. Oh, I'm going to do the audio for sure because I can do that while I'm at the gym, which is excellent.
Yeah.
No, Joe, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, on everything we're talking about, it's just the darkness is so real and so tangible now. Like, I don't know, like things really have shifted. And I would say in the last decade, things have really, you can really tangibly feel the darkness. It used to be like, yeah, there's evil stuff. We know like Hitler's evil and there's people that go out and murder and rape and do all these terrible things. But it's become like it's everywhere. Like you're literally living in a cesspool.
Yeah.
And every day, if you don't have the light of Jesus Christ in you, it's really difficult to discern. And I would argue even impossible to discern good from evil.
And it's
just like the Bible says.
It's hard to live with if you don't have, if you don't have it. The oppression
absolutely.
can be so heavy. We were talking about how it's gotten so much bigger now. The one thing that I'm seeing the resurgence of is spiritism, like what Don was talking about, talking to spirits.
Aleister Crowley stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the stuff that's that's coming about and getting even bigger. The CE5 protocol that Stephen Greer pushes, that is spiritism. That's 1800 Madame Blavatsky spiritism repackaged into a sci-fi mode. Everybody wants to be in contact with these special other life forms, and all you got to do is follow the protocol and you're going to come in contact. You can call the orbs in yourself at any time. This is a seduction that's got these people hooked, and everybody's getting into it. It's something that is so huge, and they're promoting it more and more and more.
And it involves drug use sometimes, right?
Yeah. A lot of the times
they're promoting hallucinogenic drugs to bring these entities in. The Bible makes it very clear, have nothing to do with pharmakia.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know how much people know about the New Age if they haven't spent any time in it. But the one thing that I did know about the New Age being in it was drugs were prevalent. Anything that you can do to have the experience is what they said. If it took drugs to get you into that state, so be it. If meditation wasn't working for you, here, take this. This will work. And you're going to come across the same beings either way. That's what they found out with the studies of ayahuasca, the DMT, the studies they were doing out in New Mexico, the University of New Mexico. Why is it that under a psychedelic drug, a hallucinogenic drug, they encounter gray aliens? That doesn't make any sense at all. But there they were.
Yeah, that DMT stuff is, and it's it's been promoted on some really big podcasts. I mean, that's opening up another can of worms you definitely don't want to get into. So, Joe, there was two comments by Terry Wilson over in Rumble, and I just wanted to read these. I'm gonna have to put my glasses on because I can't see these old eyes. It says, "Those who have passed by my way because I'm open and receptive. I document these things and many other types of really cool experiences in my book. I documented one on Facebook last week also. And then I'm assuming you're a female, Terry. Here's the difference with my experiences. They're not scary. They're full of love, peace, joy, and all things good. I hope to hear more experiences like mine because they exist and provide hope." Have you heard that before?
Yeah, many times. Terry, my advice, just take the opportunity and challenge the source. You will see a whole different story from them. You challenge them, just like in the documentary. Everybody there challenged them. And they got won out with Jesus Christ. These entities, it may feel good, You may think you're doing something special. Same thing with the alien abduction experience. Not all people report bad experiences, but you challenge that experience, it's going to get real bad real quick, because that's when the enemy knows it's losing their grip on you. Right now, you're wholeheartedly walking into this, but let me tell you, they're going to let you down. They're going to let you down really bad. They don't need you all the time. They're just using you as a tool. That's all you are to them. But eventually, you're going to wear out. They're going to let you go, and they're going to let you go really bad. Every single testimony I've got is just like that. As a matter of fact, you just heard those 4 testimonies, same type of deal. They were all giving themselves wholeheartedly into it until they decided to challenge it. And then they rear their ugly head. Then you see them for what they really are. So I hope you understand that there is a hope other than them, a hope that's higher than them. You know, in my first talk I ever did as CE4 researcher with the truth, my first talk ever in a conference setting was at a New Age conference, because I had just come out of the New Age and I was still in contact with a lot of those people, trying to share the truth with them. I was following a channeler, a Pleiadian channeler, she called herself. When I was in the New Age, I followed her regularly. I was one of her followers. She was the one that put the conference on, and she invited me to the conference, knowing that I had changed, knowing that I'd become a believer, and knowing what I had found. And I asked her, I said, "Are you sure you want me there?" I said, it's going to get their attention. It's going to be controversial. She says, "Controversial makes money." I said, "Okay." So I went to the conference and I talked. Halfway through that talk, I got to a point to where I was talking about them in the audience, these New Age people. And I had a Bible in my hand and I'm holding it up and I'm saying, "Let me ask you something. You all here, a lot of you here are following messages from sources you think are giving you something special." I said, "But these are lesser gods. Why would you follow a lesser god when you can follow the creator of the universe?" Oh yeah, that got their attention. And I was there with my partner that I founded CE4 with. And as soon as we were done talking, I said, "We need to exit out of here real quick, because I think I stepped on a lot of toes." So as soon as we were done, we went to the hallway. Guess what happened while we were in the hallway? All these people came out. How do we get a hold of what you're in contact with? Because that hit home with them, that I had something greater than what they were following. So I asked you, Terry, why follow a lesser God? Try the greatest creator of the universe, God, the one that created all those lesser gods. Try him. You want something special? That's special.
Mm. You know, it reminds me of the story. I think it's Paul's on Mars Hill, right? And he's looking at all their gods and inscriptions about their gods. And he says, "Who's the unknown God?" Like, "Oh, that's the one where, just in case there's another one." Basically, they had like a scapegoat or something, right? And he starts telling them about the God. And Terry, you will not be disappointed if you put your trust in him. I promise you that. Like, he will take all the pain, all the hurts, all the unforgiveness. He'll take it all, and he'll put it on his own back. That's what Jesus did on the cross. He shed his blood for each one of us so that we could be forgiven and have a way back to the Father. And then he'll even give you his spirit. And if you think the spirit you're talking to or something, wait till you get his spirit. That's something
like I was saying about different. Chris Ward, talking to that girl in Roswell. Mm-hmm. She thought she had something special on him until he started speaking, with God at his side. Just blew her away. You mentioned Statue of the Unknown God. I've got these friends, they're Christians that go out to Burning Man every year.
Oh, man.
And yeah, they set up a tent called Tent of the Unknown God. And they're right there in the middle of Burning Man. It's amazing. Wow. People come in there and they hear the gospel for the first time and give their life to Christ right there in Burning Man.
That's crazy. Yeah,
That shows you
that's
how
going
big
into
he
the
is.
that's going into Devil's Playground right there.
You
They
have
have,
to,
I think,
you know?
they had a huge. Wasn't there a fire or something last year? Like it burned, something else burned down other than the Burning Man itself. Something happened. I can't remember. It was some big event.
Yeah, I
Or
don't
maybe
remember
it
what it
got
was
rained
now.
out. Maybe God rained on them or something. I can't remember. Um, yeah, the further you delve into the unknown, the more unknown. This is the allure of it, I think, Joe, is that when you go down that road and you get deeper and deeper into it, there's always another carrot. Right?
Yes.
There's another temptation. There's another
Yes.
secret that you need to know.
Yes.
And that's how they fool you. That's how they pull you in and draw you in. And it's, look, I'm going to say 99 out of 100 times, they're going to come to you as light. They're going to come to you as loving, peaceful, right? But there is no love in
absolutely.
them. They're full of
No.
hatred. They're full of evil.
Yeah.
They can't love. It's a false love. And that, I don't know, I guess that, wrapping of their arms around you saying, hey, come to our side. Joe, another great deception, and I don't want to say all of them are this, but the NDE, the near-death experience, there is a ton of similarities to what
Yep.
you have uncovered with the abduction experience. And I'm not going to say all of them. I won't go that far because I do believe God has grace and he's done some amazing things with some of those experiences. But I would say a majority of them are probably not so good, and especially when they don't mention Jesus.
Yes. That's the whole key is what is the message that they bring? That's how you test what you're dealing with, is the message. Every single time you will see that the message is always anti-Bible, anti-Christ, dealing with the abduction experience, the bad ones. And in dealing with NDEs, so many of them are the message that they bring back is, oh, all dogs go to heaven. We don't need salvation. I saw all my dead relatives there and I know they weren't saved. But those are the lies because all dogs don't go to heaven. That's the truth of it. But that's the message they're trying to give you, and that comes across over and over and over. The whole paranormal occult deception, delusion, I should say. I truly believe this is part of the strong delusion that they talk about in Second Thessalonians. It all has the same purpose. It's to test you. Okay. The effect of the delusion shows its purpose. The effect of the delusion of any of these parts of the paranormal is they take your eyes off of the one main true God, the one true God, and get you to look at something else. Every single one does exactly the same thing. That tells you their source. Why would they do all of this effort to take your eyes off of God? Because they don't
Yeah,
follow God.
that's right.
And
I mean,
that's a
it's
strong
always look at the
delusion.
shiny object, right? I mean, look
Oh
over
yeah,
here.
that's what it is. It's always a shiny object. You know, so many of the things in that documentary just played right into the research that I've done. The download that Jen was talking about, this whole, and then Jason mentioned it too. The download is an amazing thing that I captured years ago, seeing it across the different realms, different paranormal realms. But that download is something special. I had it myself. I was an experiencer myself. That download is the one thing that drove me into the new age. That download was information of everything that I was about to come across as special knowledge in the new age. As I dabbled into the new age after that, after getting that download, everything I was learning, everything I was trying to learn to get to that become enlightened. Enlightenment comes through knowledge. So I'm acquiring all this knowledge that I can to reach enlightenment, reach nirvana. But every time I came across something new that was introduced to me, it was like, oh, I already know that because that was part of that download. But 4 years into the new age, I get to the end of it when the time that I was becoming believer, and there was no more of that. It's just like they gave me so much, and then I went through all of it, and it's like, okay, what happened? That was that letdown I was talking about with Terry, is they're going to let you down at some point.
They have to. I mean, they can't.
Yeah.
They're not God. They're not infinite,
No.
eternal beings. So
No.
they're limited by they do have a different dimension they're in, and they can operate in that, and then operate in our dimension also. But
Sure.
they're limited. They have boundaries.
Yeah.
But obviously, if I always think of this, Joe, if I could turn invisible, you know how many tricks I could play on people? I mean, I could do so many
Yep.
things. And right, it's like they're invisible. Now they can manifest in different ways, of course, and they can interfere with physical objects and things like that somehow. I don't know how it's done, but it's all demonic trickery.
Yeah.
They have to be laughing at us, because they're like, it's like the magician, who's that guy? Oz Perlman. He's kind of big right now, right? He's kind of the mind reader, and he always says it's just a trick. He's like, I'm not reading people's minds. It's a trick. And but to him, everybody else is looking at him like, this is amazing. Like, how does he do that? That's incredible. He must be like some kind of has some miraculous powers or something, supernatural powers. And the demons and the angels, they operate in a different realm. So, we're lower than the angels. And of course, we're not going to understand their physics or whatever they're using in that realm. So it's going to appear to us as like godlike, because we don't have anything to compare it to. But when you understand scripture, it becomes crystal clear. I remember, Joe, like when I told you, when I was really delving into the ghost hunting stuff, before I was actually delving into it before I did the research as a Christian. So when I was just, trying to film stuff with my friends or whatever, we had some weird things happen. I remember like when I started reading the Bible, I'm like, whoa, okay, that kind of explains what happened. Like that's just like a trick. Like that's not, something that I should be like really like trying to chase down and learn. Ouija boards, all this stuff just opens doors to the same realm. Dr. Michael Heiser, I love Heiser's work on the unseen realm. I mean, that book is just, that opened my eyes to so many different things. And I remember reading that, and I was like, he was showing that, the different hierarchy in the angelic realm, right? And then you read his demons book, and it just, it's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, and it's all biblical. It's not like he's like making stuff up. And I remember like thinking like every Christian should read this book and understand what the Bible says about angels and demons. And not that we are to worship them or to have little charms of them hanging from our rearview mirror or anything like that. No, we worship the living Christ. But it's very helpful to understand that order of things when you're dealing with this trickery, this evil, this deception.
And how they work.
Yep. Yeah.
There's another good book for that too, because I read the other one long before I met Michael Heiser. I think, when did I meet him first? I think it was 2023 in Roswell. It was the first time I met him in person. And then we became friends over the years, met him many times after that. But before Heiser, the book that helped me with all of that was C.S. Lewis's The Screw Tape Letters. Have you ever read that?
Oh, I've listened to it. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. That's amazing how truthful it is on the way that these demons work, in our lives. And that was a wake-up call and a half when I read that. I was like, holy moly. I mean, he's spelling it right out. This is something I actually lived, and he's actually had it in written form way before I ever had the experiences, And I was going like, wow, this is crazy. It's something that
C.S.
people
Lewis,
should understand.
Oh man, he had a way of writing that was just amazing. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was definitely a gift. Yeah, Screw Tape was really good stuff. It shows you all these little things open up different. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, though we can't see into that realm, we can see with foggy glasses, right? But then when you read the Bible, you look and you're like, oh, I can see clearly. Even though I'm not seeing with my physical eyes, I'm seeing with my spiritual eyes.
Yes.
And then that deception just like melts. And then you start seeing, I remember, well, I'm sure you probably had the same experience. When you became a Christian, it was like all of a sudden everything was black and white. There was no more gray for me. I was like, oh my gosh, like, why didn't I know this yesterday? Like, it was just like all of a sudden truth was there.
Yeah, you had to take the blinders off and the earplugs out,
Yep.
Yeah, it was amazing. that's a transition that is hard to explain to people. You know, I, I I tell them that I grew up in the church, and with my parents up until the time I was a senior in high school. That's when I left the church. But in the church, I had many friends that gave their life to Jesus Christ, and I so wanted to, but I was under the control of something even back then that would not let me. I remember many times putting my foot out there in that aisle, wanting to walk forward. Couldn't do it. Could not do it. Same thing Don was talking about. The pastor said, is Jesus Christ Lord in your life? He couldn't say it. I was the same way. And, that's something, if you're caught up in this stuff, that's a good test. Try and claim Jesus as Lord and see what happens. You know, they're not going to like it. And then you're going to see things turn nasty. But if they do, that you need to run. And you need to run to the Lord wholeheartedly because he's going to protect you at that point. That's a big question though, is how do you get people to that point? How do you get them to where they'll actually test the spirits? Being that they've been so overwhelmed and so sold on what they're following. Over the years, I learned how to do that. I learned that the way to break that stronghold that they actually become under, they don't realize it. They think they're doing something special, just like Jen talked about. But the whole time she was under a demonic stronghold, just not realizing it till later. You have to break that stronghold or they can't hear the word of God. Something has to break down the stronghold just long enough for you to be able to share the word of God with them, and they can hear it with a clear mind just for a moment. That's all you need, is to plant that seed, and the Lord will take the seed from there and make it grow. But that was something I had to learn how to do, was to break down that stronghold piece by piece by piece till you can get them to where they'll go, okay, tell me more about the real part. And, I finally took the time to put all that together, especially with dealing with ufology. I call them the red flags of ufology. People in the realm that I work in abductions and UFOs, people that have been caught up in it and their lives aren't going too well. The only way I can reach them is to start chipping away at that stronghold. Chip, 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 chip away until you get to that point to where they're open enough to listen to you, and they're open enough to listen to God's word. And what I did with the book, The Red Flags of Ufology, is all those things that don't make sense. That's what I use when I'm trying to reach people. I start showing them one thing that doesn't make sense after another that they think they're following, that they think is real. When you start putting that seed of doubt in their mind, that starts breaking that stronghold down. Once they look at you after you've done this enough to break the little bit of that stronghold down, when you get that response where they go, wow, that right there is when you want to jump in. You're doubting this now. Let me show you something that does make sense. And that's when you have the opportunity to share God's word in them. So I took those red flags, I took those things that don't make sense, and I put them all in a book. And I want to make it available to everybody out there to be able to take a book like this. You got a friend that's involved in all this UFO stuff, give them this book. The book's cheap. I made it cheap. Give them the book. Let them read it. Let them read all the things that Ancient Aliens isn't telling them. All those shows that they're watching isn't telling them. When you start laying out all the things that absolutely don't make sense for this to be extraterrestrial, you finally get to that point, well, wow, this really doesn't make sense. What could it be? And that's when you go, thanks for asking. Let me show you. And you have that opportunity to witness to them and share them the truth. It's up to them to accept it, but you finally have that opportunity to share it with them. And that's what I did with this book, is put those together. There's 40 chapters in this book, little chapters of each little thing that doesn't make sense. And since I've written the book, I'm coming across more things that don't make sense. So eventually there might be enough that I can put together and put volume 2,
Oh man. Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to read that one. We will definitely put that link in the description below the video here on Rumble, also on Foxhole, so you guys can take a look at that. Joe, I do see this quite often, and it could be people trapped in a false religion, ghost hunting, whatever you want to, the aforementioned. There's an information bias. I think we all have this at some point. And until the truth becomes the ultimate divider, that bias is going to lead you and cause you to follow an agenda and be misled. And the only thing that breaks that information bias is the truth.
Yep.
And Jesus said he's the way, the truth, and the life. That's what Jen also said in the documentary there. That's what set her free. And I know this from my own personal testimony. I've heard it hundreds of times from other believers that, were deceived by something. It could be, you could be deceived by your job. Your job could be your God, whatever.
Sure.
So when that information bias is broken, gosh, it's like a new world. It's like everything is laid out before you, and you just become like so enamored by the love of God that it becomes tangible. Like you just know that that, like David said, you knew me when you were forming me, forming me in my mother's womb, right? Weaving me together in her womb. You knew me before time began. You already had me in your thoughts. And that's a love that you cannot experience or buy anywhere.
Yeah.
My wife's back got healed 20 plus years ago. That's what the road that led me to salvation. I remember his love. It's a long story, but his love overwhelmed me so strongly that, I literally was like paralyzed. It was so, I could have moved if I wanted to, but I'm saying I didn't want to. I just wanted to bask in the love. It was like this liquid love that I've never experienced. And I remember him just basically saying, "You're my son. Like, I love you, and I want the best for you." And who wouldn't? As a good parent, that's what we want for our children. We want we want our children to know the truth, but sometimes they're going to stumble and they're going to fall. They're going to skin their knees. We're going to give them a hug and help them back up, and we'll forgive them. But you have a Father that's in heaven that through his Son offers the ultimate love and forgiveness, and it's available to all of us.
Yep.
And it's free. Joe. It's free.
Yeah.
Like
you don't need to buy the book. It's free.
That's right. You're not going to find it on Amazon.
I know what you're talking about. When I first became a believer, I was exactly that. I was so excited and so overwhelmed with the truth that I became angry. And I became angry because so many people around me were Christians and knew the truth. And I was so angry that they didn't tell me the truth. Why didn't you tell me this? The sad thing is, once I approached them on that face to face, the answer I got was, "You couldn't hear us. We did share the truth, but you couldn't hear us at the time." My mom was, I was even angry at her because my mom was one of the most devout believers in Jesus Christ that I ever knew. And I even took it to her, and she says, "You don't understand." She says, "I have prayed for you since you were born to know Jesus Christ. And I've never stopped. I still pray today that you know him the way I know him." And I'm like, wow, was I that blind? And scripture talks about people being that blind, where he blinds the heart, hardens the hearts and blinds them of the truth. But he can also remove those blinders and heal that heart, which he did with me. Once I understood that, then all that angriness went away. Once I realized that, wow, it was that powerful. The enemy had that big of a hold on me that I couldn't even hear God's word. I couldn't even allow it to penetrate my mind. It wasn't until that one time when the girl I was dating at the time shared the gospel message with me. I allowed her to do that. It might have not been because I wanted it to, but because I bet her, or I'd have been in trouble with her. But because I let my guard down just for that moment, she was able to reach me with the absolute truth, to where I turned to her and I said, "I want that protection." And I gave my life right there in her living room that day, 1996.
Yeah, we have to have a contrite and humble heart to receive. It's got to be fertile ground. Chops,
Yeah.
my good friend, said, there is no penetrating the armor of a fool with his heart set on believing the lie. That is my observation. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, for sure.
I had another friend that worked with me years ago. He put it like this. He says, to a non-believer, seeing is believing. They want to see it. They want to see proof that God is real. Well, that's a difficult thing because God is taken on faith. The believer says believing is seeing. So you have to make that transition to see.
Hmm.
And that's where we break down the stronghold so we can share the truth and then they can see.
Yeah, and God gives us enough evidence and natural, revelation to understand that. I mean, you look at the stars, and I don't care if you're an Aborigine. I don't care if you've never spoken a word in your life. You look at things and you see somebody had to make that. If I always use the analogy, if I'm taking my grandson for a ride in the car, right, and let's say he's 5 years old, and we drive by a house, I'm not, and I say, hey, look at that house just appeared out of nothing. He's gonna say, "Oh, Grandpa, come on! A builder built that house." Like we have this instinct inside of us that we know there's a creator, but most of us will deny it. We'll sit there and we'll deny it and push it down, and we'll suppress the truth and unrighteousness, as Romans 1 talks about. And we don't want that evidence. We'd rather live the lie because that's more comfortable and that's a safe place. We can just kind of bask in that for a little while and be safe
We don't
there,
have to be
even
accountable.
though no accountability. But when you come out of it, Joe, I remember thinking I was free and I was actually a slave.
Yeah.
Didn't even know it. Came out of it and I said, wait a minute, all this time I was actually a slave? I thought I
Yeah,
wasn't going to have any fun as a Christian, Joe. I thought I would have to not have fun anymore, not be able to laugh about anything, right? And have a good time.
No, this is the
It
best
was total
decision we
freedom.
ever made.
Oh, man. Amazing.
Yeah, this puts the New Age to shame, believe me. I've been there. I can tell you that. No, nothing like the New Age. This is so much bigger being a believer. There's so much. Yep. Let me put it this way. Being a New Ager, like I said, to reach enlightenment and nirvana, it's achieved through knowledge, through special knowledge. You know what? They don't have enough. But God's word has so much in there. It just blows a New Age away. You can read the book 1,000 times and pick up something new every single time because God's word is living word. It speaks to you at any time, at different times, differently, but it never wears out. I don't think I wish I could live long enough to understand it all, but I know we're limited on the amount of years we have. But I tell you, I just wish I had more time because there's so much more to learn about God and from his word. I just wish I had more time.
Well, the good news
Don't
is
be that person that wish you had more time.
you're going to have
Take that decision
eternity
now.
to.
Yeah, I'm going to have eternity.
We're going to be sitting at his feet learning from the master himself. That's going to be
Absolutely
incredible to think about. It's funny because you were saying you could read it 1,000 times and then you get something else out of it. And the other day I was listening, and I was listening to Matthew, I think, and I can't remember what chapter it was, but something I heard it, and I'm like, I had to rewind. I'm like, how come I don't remember that verse? I've read Matthew, listened to Matthew a million times. Like, how did I not hear that verse before? It is amazing. It's living, active, and sharper than any two-edged sword. And that's the thing. It's the only book in the world that's living. It is the living word. And if you allow it in your life, it becomes active, and it causes change. It causes us to be more like him, and not out of like this fear thing of, oh, you better be obedient.
No, because
we should be obedient. It's because you want to. You love him, and he loves you. He loves you so immensely that you want to please the Father. You want to please him.
When
it's enjoyable.
When I gave my life to the Lord, I knew that next step was because I grew up in a church. I knew I wanted to get baptized, and I didn't have a church to go to because I'd spent the last 4 years in the New Age, and I thought, where do I go to do this? So I made the decision to go to my my mom's church, my mom and dad's church. I said, what better place to walk the aisle, finally give my life to Christ publicly, and then follow it with baptism, but do it in their church.
Mhm.
So I went to this little church and met with the pastor. I knew him anyway because I still used to go for my mom and family for on Easter and Christmas and things like that, but never regularly. And I talked to him. His name was Rocky Purvis, and Rocky was a character. I really liked him. And when I went to get baptized, the day that I was to get baptized, the Sunday I was to get baptized, there were 5 of us there. And I'll never forget what he said. He gave this whole little spiel about, we were a rough looking bunch, the 5 of us. Believe me, we'd come out of some hard times. And he's looking at us. He says, I only got one word from you. He says, don't think. And if anybody ever told you this, you have to do something to be saved. He says, you don't have to change anything. There's nothing you have to change to become saved. You come to him freely as you are. He will receive you as you are. There's nothing you have to do. But once you're saved, you will want to do those things for him in joy, in happiness, but not because you have to, because you want to. And I'm telling you, I was exactly that person. I wanted to do so much for the Lord when I finally gave my life to Christ. It was amazing. I wanted to really bad. I never thought that I'd be doing this. I thought of other things, but never thought that I'd be, this would be my field that he gave me. But no regrets. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah, we're compelled from within, right? We have His
Yeah.
Spirit living in us, and it compels us to
Yeah.
try to live a holy life, try to live a life that's pleasing to Him. Of course, we fall down, we make mistakes, we screw up, say bad things, think bad
Yep.
thoughts. But He's so forgiving. Joe, I can't remember what preacher it was. I was listening to this a long time ago, and he said, just imagine if all of your thoughts were on the big screen in Times Square. Just one thought after another, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's horrifying. But it made me think, like, the Lord sees every thought.
Yes.
He hears every thought. He knows everything you've ever thought, or every sin you're ever going to commit, and He still loves you.
Yeah.
Because you're covered in the blood of Jesus. Like, that is just an incredible thing. And like we said before, it's free. There's nothing in this universe that's free. Nothing. That's the only thing.
Sadly, and I've been told this over the years numbers of times about people telling me, the reason you're not getting recognition is because people don't like free. They don't trust free. And that's what the enemy's done to us. If something's free, it has no quality. There must be no quality to it.
Mhm.
Because anything that was worth something is going to cost you. That's what they're thinking is. That's what the world has got us thinking. And that is so absolutely wrong. This freedom of his grace and his salvation that he can give us, that is so precious and so valuable, but it goes against everything the world tells us. That's why it's hard to accept. I know that because that's what I hear from people that don't accept it. No, but free? Nah, I don't want free. Free's nice, but it's not quality. That's such a shame to be under that lie.
It is, but that's one of the deceptions of the devil.
Yep.
He's dangled that carrot out in so many commercials, TV infomercials. On Facebook, you're scrolling and something pops up. Oh, it's free, right? And nothing's ever free. Like even apps, when you're downloading apps, it says free app, and then you go in there and it's not free. You're paying $1.99 a month or something. Yeah. So it's like there is nothing. So I think the human mind is conditioned to believe. I always say I imagine chains being bolted to your head and to the ground, right to the earth. We're just conditioned to live in this life where we expect to pay for things, we expect to be screwed over by people, we expect to be backstabbed, and then it's like, but I have a pretty good life. It's like we just accept it because we know this isn't perfect.
Yeah.
But when you're in Him, then you see everything much clearer, and from that 40,000 foot view, and you're like, well, wait a minute, that's not cool. And God doesn't think that's cool.
Yeah.
But I'm going to, and it allows you to forgive the person that maybe has, hurt you, backstabbed you, whatever has happened. And you get to move forward without the anxiousness, the depression, the anxiety, all these things that come with holding on to bitterness. And it, like, gosh, Joe, I know people in my life right now that are so bitter, right? And it has health consequences. They have
absolutely.
multiple health issues because of the bitterness, and they can't see it. And there's no way, because I'm close to some people, I can't tell them that because they just won't see it from me. They have to hear it from other sources. So I always pray, Lord, bring someone else into their life that can show them, where this bitterness is, this root of bitterness is causing so much pain in their life. But we can see it crystal clear. And that's the thing that the truth does. It just exposes darkness. I always think of like a roach, as soon as that flashlight comes on in a dark room, that roach is scattering.
Yep.
That's what God does with his truth. Like all the roaches in our life just scatter when the truth comes in. That kind of that's a good segue.
I got to remember that. I got to remember to use that. I never thought about the enemy as roaches, but yeah, that's perfect.
Well, I know down in Florida, you guys got a whole bunch of roaches.
Yeah,
we don't
that's
see them very often up here. Thank God.
I used to be a pest control guy, so I know what you're talking about.
Oh man, Joe, I remember before I was a Christian, I was going on spring break at like 19 or 20 years old. I remember we had a hotel room down in Daytona, and it was our first night down there, and none of us had been to Florida in our life. That was the first time. And I remember my friend was laying in the bed. He's like, "Oh yeah, we're finally here," and he's all happy, right? And I said, "There's something crawling right next to you." And Joe, it's the biggest insect. I think they're insects I have ever seen in my life. It looked like the alien. Like it was gigantic, and everybody's jumping on it, trying to kill it. We thought we killed it, and that thing scurried off somewhere. We didn't know where it went. I'll never forget that. But that was my first roach, I think, introduction to a roach that I've ever had. Because up here we don't have them very, very often.
I bet you guys didn't sleep the rest of the time with your mouth open.
Oh man, it was it was horrible. That thing was so ugly. Oh my gosh. But I think of let's go into the abduction thing here. I mean, that is your your niche, right? And for anybody watching right now and you believe in alien abductions, I just want you to think with an open mind. Because the deception we're talking about, the deception that was in that movie, it's a real deception.
Yep. And
as the days move forward, as Joe said, he believes there's going to be a very strong delusion that God talks about in 2 Thessalonians. I think it's in chapter 2.
Chapter 2.
And we believe, I'm with you, Joe. I do believe this is part of that great deception. And as we get closer to the end, whenever that may be, if it's 10 years, 50, 100, 1,000, whenever, it doesn't matter. We have to be open. We have to be objective. We can't be subjective. We have to be very objective to information coming in and saying, okay, does that ring true? Does that make any sense? Because this alien abduction thing, it hasn't been going on forever, Joe. It just seems like all of a sudden it popped up, in the last, 80 years, 75 years, whatever it is.
Yep.
Before that, there was other strange things happening to people, for sure. But what's really weird? If these visitors have been here for so long, how come we don't have spacecraft being identified, 300 years ago, during the Revolutionary War, or during the Boston Tea Party, or something like. And there are people that say there's that painting with I think is it the Virgin Mary or something, and then the supposed alien craft is behind it, right?
Yeah.
But it never pans out. These are all falsehoods. And I think actually Michael Heiser, speaking of him, I think he has an episode on one of his podcasts. I remember watching this a long time ago, where he goes through all the artwork in the past, and he just looks at history, says, yeah, this is what the artist was doing. He tells us it wasn't a UFO, right? So,
yeah. Chris White was around back then too. One of the Christian researchers working with us. Chris White did a whole thing on those things in the paintings. What it was, it just so people understand what they're seeing with those medieval artwork, is the artist was trying to give the impression that the divine was present. And how do you visualize that?
Yeah.
And that's what those were. That's not an alien spacecraft. That's a symbol that the artist used to paint into the picture to show that divine presence was there. That's all that is. The problem is now is everybody's looking at this stuff through the glasses of ufology. Don't do that. Take those glasses off and just look at it for what it is. Look at it for what the history is. Look at it for the time period it is. Look at it for how they did the paintings back then. And then you'll understand what all that is. And that takes me right back to the red flags. You just talked about one of the red flags that I have in there. You know, how many of these things that don't make sense is it does it take to get you to go, you're right, this doesn't make sense. What else could it be? That's where you need to get people you need to get them to that. But society's not giving them that opportunity. They're all being bombarded with ancient aliens, with the documentaries, the UFO documentaries, but they're only give you one side of the UFO coin. You know, the other side are the things that don't make sense, but they don't want to share that part because that's going to make you doubt what they're telling you. Okay. The stuff they're telling you that they want you to believe them, but they have no evidence for. No, just trust me. I heard this secondhand from a guy who was there. That's not evidence, you know, and I'm afraid that's what we're going to end up getting from disclosure is, yes, we've got people that got so-called craft, so-called bodies, so-called whatever, but they never show it to you, you know, so it's still the same old secondhand stuff. Secondhand is not evidence. You know, the one thing I bring forward with the testimonies that I bring, like in Piercing the Cosmic Veil and on my website, those testimonies are firsthand. These are people who have been able to stop this firsthand, that they're telling you their story firsthand, not secondhand. And what is the evidence that their story is true? The evidence that their story is true is a life changed. Okay? A life completely changed from what the horrors they were under, the oppression they were under, to a life of freedom through Jesus Christ. That evidence is documentable. Is you're able to document that because all you got to do is talk to the people around them that knew them. He's not the person I knew. You know, he's changed. Everything's changed in him. That's the proof of what this is. That's the proof that what they're telling you is absolutely true. And you're getting it firsthand with the testimonies. You know, I used to bring the testimonies up on stage at conferences. You know, don't trust me. I can show you fuzzy pictures too, and I can show you fuzzy videos. But let me bring you real evidence. And I have them come up on stage. I said, talk to them. Don't talk to me. Talk to them. They're the evidence. I'm just bringing it to you. You know, the sad thing was nobody would talk to them because they were afraid it might be real, that what I'm telling them is real. And then they'd have to be accountable for themselves and the things that they do. And sadly, that's what people don't want to do. People want to live in their sin. They don't want to let it go. They don't want to take the mask off of it. They don't want to put light on it. They want to be able to just continue doing the things that they do.
There's this weird thing, and I was part of this. I remember growing up, I was hook, line, and sinker into aliens. And I thought, well, of course there's aliens. The universe is so big and vast, it has to have alien light, right? Like, it's just the same stories you've heard perpetrated time and time again. And I believed it. And when I started coming out of it and realizing something's up with this, this is not, something's not jiving here. The evidence isn't lining up. I remembered there was a disappointment in me.
Yes.
I really wanted it to be true.
Yes.
And I don't know what, but here's the thing. I've never really understood why I wanted it to be true. Like, it doesn't, because really, like, you know, it's like saying there's, you know, a leprechaun that comes every March 17th for St. Patrick's Day, right? And or Santa Claus comes on, you know, Christmas Day or whatever. Like, we all learn, okay, yeah, that's fairy tales, you know, whatever, blah, blah. And it's a little disappointing as a kid. You're like, oh, it's not real. But then you get over it. But the alien thing is kind of like that. It's kind of this thing of like the Santa Claus in the universe, and you're like, he's going to come in on his, you know, flying saucer sled, and you're so disappointed when you realize, oh, it's not real. and there's like this void at first, and I could never really figure it out, Joe. I to this day I don't think I still have figured out why that void was there. It's not there now, but at
Yeah.
that time I just remember, and it the only thing I can think of is because I didn't have God filling that void.
Yes.
Right? I needed something that was greater than myself,
Yes.
because that would bring me assurance, maybe of peace and joy and happiness or something.
You know, as a new believer, I still believed that there was a possibility for life out there. Like some people have said over the years to us in this research is, well, you can't tell me God's not big enough that he didn't make other life out there. And why wouldn't he if he made the universe so big? I might have shared with you this before, but my come to Jesus on that happened when I was at the Kennedy Space Center working back in 2011. Of all places to have a truth laid on me, but I think that's like you got probably why God put me in those positions to be able to reach me with the truth. 2011, right before the shuttle all shut down, it was already on its wind down, but NASA released a documentary that they produced with one of the shuttle missions, where that shuttle mission, it went up to repair the lenses on the Hubble, because remember the Hubble had not clear lenses, and they needed to correct that. So they decided to take IMAX cameras up on that shuttle mission and film everything with the astronauts repairing the shuttle and getting it back working and making it clear again. And what was amazing is at the end of that documentary, like you were talking about earlier, they took Hubble and they took all the shots of pictures and put them all together into a video. And what happens is you're sitting there watching this IMAX theater documentary, IMAX being, two stories tall on a screen, and Hubble is reaching out into space, right? Farther and farther and farther. Like you talked about, where it went to that dark spot and they thought there was going to be nothing, and all of a sudden there's these lights, and they happen to be more and more galaxies. And then it pulls back. In that moment, I realized we were alone, and I realized why. This is what the Lord laid on my heart. I hate to say this all the time, but especially publicly, I can think it is one thing, but to say it, the space program is the new Tower of Babel. They're trying to reach God, or they're trying to reach a point to where they can say there is no God. He's not going to let them do that. He didn't let them build that tower to heaven either. He destroyed it, broke it apart, dispersed the people. Well, the space program's the same way. These people are looking for life out there. They're looking to see that we're not alone. They want to prove it, that God isn't real, evolution's true. They're trying to prove all that they believe. But in that moment, I came out of that theater bawling, trying to hide my face so all those people wouldn't see me, because I worked with half of them. But I got my truth that day. That moment in that time at that theater, I got my truth. And I walked out of there understanding that why it's so big. Because this UFO phenomenon, if you believe in it, this is what you believe about yourself. This is what it makes you think about yourself. That you are just a minute cog in a huge machine, this universe, that it's teeming with life out there. Okay? Gazillions of stars and planets and everything, with millions of life on each one. How big does that make you feel? It makes you feel very tiny. It may not make you feel alone. That's one thing that it does for you, is that's what people want, to think that they're not alone. For some reason, they think they're alone amongst all the people on this planet, that they got to look elsewhere to get a friend. That's a sad thing in itself. But that's what it makes you feel like, insignificant amongst the whole vast populated universe. But as a believer in Jesus Christ, what does he say? He says, you are the center of my universe. I made all of this for you to be in awe of me. Which would you rather feel like?
Yep.
I'd rather choose that I'm that special for him, not that I'm totally insignificant because I believe in there must be other life out there.
Yeah.
They're
Psalm
never going to
19, the
reach the
heavens
end.
declare the glory of God.
Yeah, they're never going to reach the end of the universe because God was bigger than that. I think God knows, I truly believe God knows in his foreknowledge that we would be trying to do this, just like the Tower of Babel, trying to reach heaven. That's exactly what's happening here with all of this, these manned launches and ships that go out there looking for stuff. He's not going to let them get to the end. That's why there'll never be an end. And he did that on purpose because he knew that we would be at more technology, bigger and bigger telescopes. But all it's going to be is more of what they see already. It's never going to get to an end. That's what's got them so disturbed right now. For when they looked out there with this Webb telescope and they're seeing things that they did not expect to see. They thought they were seeing the final, very ends of the initial, what they call Big Bang. That's what they were hoping to see. But no, it's not. It's everything just like they see here, and that's got them puzzled to no end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't even know what the age is now. They were at 14 million. I think it changes every couple of years, but
Yeah.
It used to make sense to me that the vastness of the universe. Well, there must be life out there, right? It was, and people say, "Well, how can we be so arrogant as Christians to think that we're the only ones here?" Right? There's no arrogance in it. If you believe that God created all things, it's very simple to believe. But if
Yeah.
you're an evolutionist,
Yeah.
you have to believe there's other life because it. I mean, let's face it. If you came from the goo to the zoo to you, then that could happen anywhere in the universe as long as
Yeah.
there's the right ingredients recipe for it to happen, right?
Yeah.
According to us, like, and this is the other thing, Joe. They said, well, if there's water on a planet, that means there could be life. Well, why does water necessarily have to have life just because it is on Earth? How do we know
Nope.
a million light years away that they need water to live? Right? Like these are just assumptions based on our
Yeah.
own experiences. Like you said earlier, there's no evidence for this stuff. These are all theories.
I covered that part in one question that in my Piercing the Cosmic Veil book. In the center of the book, I put questions and answers
Mhm.
so that I could try to answer a lot of the questions that people would have reading the book, but answer them in the book, so they wouldn't have to go elsewhere looking for the answer. And Ian Juby, good friend in Canada, he's a creation scientist himself. He's one of the leading Mensa students in all of Canada and super genius guy. And he had written a paper, and I asked him if I could use that to answer the question, exactly that question that people ask. You can't imagine, you can't think that we're the only ones out there. Well, he uses, in his scientific mind, he uses statistics to answer that question. And there's actually odds of placed on the idea. What are the odds that we developed from that whatever that
Yeah.
primordial soup?
Yeah.
What are the odds for that to happen for Earth? And the number, I don't if you understand how big numbers can get, it was 10 to the 40th power. That's almost a number that our minds can't comprehend.
There's not that many atoms in the known universe. I've heard this before. Yeah.
Yeah. It's that big of odds that we came here accidentally. And now you want to tell me that you want to double that because of another life planet out there?
Mm-hmm.
Not only do you want to double that, you want to multiply that 1,000 times, thinking there's thousands of worlds out there. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. But again, that's one of those red flags, It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, the math of the universe, the language of the universe, that's another, gosh, you could talk about that all night. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I love that part of it, though. I love listening to podcasts where they talk about it.
I love that too. I love that stuff. I actually had a dream one night, Joe. This was so cool. God gave me this dream where I was looking at the Earth from space, but it was in a like a 3D model type look, like if you were looking at it on a computer, like, and there's some kind of rendering, and it was turning and twisting and doing all these things, and it was numbers, just numbers everywhere. Like, I mean, like, it was hurting my brain in the dream. There were so many numbers, and that was just the Earth.
Yeah.
Like, and he was like showing off, kind of like, son, check this out. But you think of the vastness of the universe is awe-inspiring for sure. And you do think like, gosh, we're so insignificant, but we're not.
We're not.
We are the
everything.
center. Yeah, we're the apple of his eye. Like he did it for his glory and for us.
Yeah.
And I think it's more plausible to believe that we are the only life in this thing. If you understand that you can't come from that goo, if you understand that there has to be a designer, then why wouldn't he paint this beautiful picture and put us right in the center somewhere and say, check this out. Look how awesome I am. And this is just creation. This isn't even where he dwells, right? He's infinite. He's eternal. Like, we can't comprehend these things, but it's awe-inspiring. And
if it was limited, if we did reach the end, would we think so big of him? Because then we would think, well, he's not so big. This is all he did,
Yeah.
No, he had to go all out because he knew the way we would think. He had to go all out, and he did go all out.
Isn't it going to be cool though, Joe, when we're with him and we get to see him recreate it all?
Yeah.
So there's going to be a new earth and that's going to be so cool. We're going to be able to sit there like the sons of God did. And I think, is that in Job when it talks about the sons of God watching creation, or is that Genesis? I can't remember. That's going to be so cool to be able to watch from like the bleachers and just kind of take notes on what's going on and watch him recreate it for us. Like, that's going to be so cool.
Well, but even be cooler if he asked us what else we'd like to see.
Oh man.
Added to it,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
We lived it. Maybe he's going to ask us for some feedback.
Maybe. Yeah. That would be something. I don't know. I think about me and Mike used to have these talks all the time because I think we limit God, right, by our own finite brains.
Mm-hmm.
We all do it. And it's like, well, if you really think about God, God's never had to think about anything. He doesn't sit there and contemplate things.
No.
The Bible will use like analogies and things like that so that we understand it. But he hasn't had to sit back and sit there and go, oh, geez, I wonder if I would have just made the earth another, 2 miles in circumference, or like, it's like everything's was made perfect in the beginning until sin entered. Yes. And he's going to bring it back to that. He's going to recreate so it's perfect again. But he allows us to live in it. He supplies our needs, gives us oxygen to breathe. Joe, today I didn't think once about breathing in oxygen and exhaling carbon dioxide. It never occurred to me, but it happened.
Yeah.
But if I had emphysema, or I came down with a severe pneumonia or something like that, I bet you I would think about it.
It is something I think about because I do sleep with an oxygen generating machine because my oxygen levels are low. So yeah, I do think about it.
So you do think about it.
Every time I wake up at night and I realize I got that mask on, I'm going, okay.
Yeah.
I can't take this lightly.
I think those circumstances in life, whether it's, God forbid, some kind of accident or, some things just happen in life. But those are the eye openers for a lot of people. And that's how God can use evil to bring about good. All things work together for good to those that love him and are called according to his purposes. What's that? Romans 8:28. Everybody knows that. But it's true. It's so true. Like, I've had horrendous things happen. I've got lots of friends that are gone now, but what's really cool, Joe? I was talking to my cousin about this yesterday. I got to witness a lot of people die, like by their bedside. And I got to see the ones that had hope in Christ. And I also saw the ones that did not. And it is a very, very different ending.
Yes.
And I don't, I'm not trying to be morbid, but it's just truth. I mean, I've seen the joy. My best friend, when I was 20, I was 23. He was just turned 21, and he was dying of cancer for like 2 years. We thought it went into remission, but it came back full force. And I remember we had a room of people, and 2 days before we had a big party for him. We didn't know he was going to die. It was his birthday, and so we were celebrating. And I remember he kept telling me we had like 100. So this is how stupid we were when we were young. We had like 100 people there. My friend is literally dying, and they have him on a just a drip, not any drugs. I forgot what it was, just a water drip or something. And he's telling me, he says, "Look at all the angels, aren't they beautiful?" And I'm looking at all the beautiful girls that were at the party. I'm like, "Whoa, yeah, she's she's something, right?" And he's talking about literal angels. He's seeing into the next realm. And then 2 days later, we're at the hospital, and I remember, I'm sitting on the bed with him. I'm kind of holding his hand as he's passing on, and we're all crying. There's like 30 people in the room, and I'm like, He's like, "Why are you crying? Don't you see Jesus? Don't you see him? Look how beautiful!" And it was like he was talking to you and I. Like, it was that real to him. And he passed, a couple minutes later with total joy, even though he was in excruciating pain from the gigantic tumor that was on his spine. And I've seen that multiple times play out like that. But Joe, I've also seen the other side, the ones that didn't know him. And it is much, much different. There is a fear. There's darkness in their eyes. It's not good.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And a lot of times those demons are saying, "Come with us, come with us." You never met Robert. He used to co-host with me on Insight, and he was 18 days in a coma during COVID. They gave him remdesivir and intubated him, which was not a good combination. And so he was like literally at death's door. And he said constantly the demons were antagonizing him and telling him that his wife had left him. She's never coming back. They were lying to him about everything. And they said, "Just come with us. End it now. Just come with us. You don't have to stay in this condition. You can come with us." Like, they were tempting him. But then I've had other people say, they had loved ones come to them and say, "Oh, just, it's time. Just come with us." And they got like a really creepy feeling that something's not right about this.
Yep.
So, we're talking about masquerading as angels of light and masquerading as even loved ones, familiar spirits.
Exactly
this
what
is
Don was talking about.
It's no joke.
Yeah,
Real stuff. Yeah. Yep.
absolutely. Well, we got some events coming up.
Yeah, let's. You said that conference in Ohio. I remember Oregon. I think
Oregon.
was
I'll
it the
be
last
at
time? Last time you were on, you sent all those pictures. We went through the pictures of.
Oh, yeah.
They do that
Yeah.
parade. Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah, I'll be back up there in McMinnville, Oregon for the McMinimans UFO Festival. That one's the reason that they even have that one. A lot of people don't know about it, but it's a famous UFO picture was taken there back in the 40s and 50s, I think it was. That's where that picture was taken. And they ended up becoming the second largest festival. I met the director last year. I was trying to trying to see if I could get her to invite me as a speaker, but might have fell on deaf ears. But I did get a chance to talk with her, and she says, "Yeah, we're the second largest conference, second to our second festival, second to Roswell." And I told her, I said, I've been to Roswell many times, and I said, I'm really fascinated by the work you've done here with this festival. I said, I'm going to have to tell them this year when I get to Roswell that they need to up their ante, because you guys got quite a gig going on here. Yeah, we're doing something different. I don't know if I told you this, but um, you know, being that I work out of pocket and I'm limited on what I can do out of pocket. In the crazy thing about UFO conferences is they're not cheap. Even if you're working as a vendor, to get a vendor table can be anywhere from 250 to 400, $500 for a table
Wow.
to sell your wares. You got to sell a lot of stuff just to pay for the table before you ever turn a profit.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have that, ability to do that, but I want to get the message out. So how do you do that if you're not setting up a table? The best way is just mingle and have handouts. So at least you get them to where here's a flyer. This is my information. Go here, see the documentary for free. I'm giving you that for free. And then if you're interested in the research, here's my website here. So I use business cards, and or a flyer that we're getting printed up that we can hand out. But you got to get people's attention to where they'll accept it from you. And I've seen this done. So I decided, all right, it's finally time. We need to do this, make it work. It's time that it's getting bigger and bigger and more acceptable. So let's get into the game and see if we can make it work. So we're going in costume.
Okay.
Yeah. I prayed about it. Lord gave me a good costume. I'm going in full riot gear.
Is that a good
You know
idea
the,
in Oregon?
you know, yeah. Well, you know the ICE agents. You know what they look like with their
Yeah.
tactical helmet and their earphones and their vest and everything. They had ice on it. That's me, but mine says nice.
Nice.
Big giant letters, nice, front and back. I got the tactical helmet, the earphones, everything, everything. I got the full tactical setup, but it says nice. And underneath of it, it says non-human. How does it go? Non-human intelligence customs enforcement is what it says right on my outfit. But when you show up, people are only going to see the ICE, and I'm sure I'm going to see people darting off into the corners.
Probably. And let's just pray like nothing worse.
Nothing worse.
We know that
But
is
I- But
bastion
everybody, I've made an AI picture of it. AI did a picture of it for me, a poster for me with me in the costume, and I've shown it to people. And they're just like, "This is freaking genius," because people are gonna want to get their picture taken with you.
Oh yeah,
you
for
know?
sure.
Because of that, that gives me the opportunity to hand them a flyer.
Right.
And I've got the guy that Donald that invited me last year up to McMinnville and speak at the church up there that he's in. I'm working with him again this year, and he's going to be in costume also. I told him, I said, Donald, I need you in costume right beside me. Well, what am I going to wear? Same thing. I said, no, you're going as a Men in Black. And so it'll be the ICE agent and the Men in Black side by side.
Is he going to have
And
the
we're
little
gonna-
memory eraser thing?
I've got them.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
There you go.
I've-
Yes.
I've
Perfect.
got that right there. So yes, and that's what we'll be doing. And then Roswell is coming up in July 4th weekend. Guy Malone and I are planning the second annual symposium on UFOs and alien abductions. And the first one was 2000. What year was that? 2004, 2005. No, I'm trying to think. 2009. That was the last time we did
Wow.
that was when we did the first annual. Well, we're calling it the second annual because we might do it again. Now, this is not a conference this year in Roswell. We're not going to be speaking as doing lectures like we did the past few years, last year and the year before. What we're doing this year is this symposium is for pastors, is what it's for. He's reaching out to every single, I think there's over 65 churches in Roswell, and he's reaching out to every pastor there. And we're reaching out to every pastor anywhere that wants to participate by asking a question. Because what we're going to do is a huge question and answer session. Like we did on the last day in 2009, we had a panel discussion with all of us there. Michael Heiser was there, Gary Bates was there. So we have a pretty good big turnout for Christian researchers at the time. And we all answered questions on that last day. Well, we're going to do the same thing, but now we have a lot more information being we're many years down the road. And we want to set it up. And now's the time. We've already got our work out there. And what Guy has put together is a website that he's promoting for all the pastors. You have to watch both of our talks that we did a few years ago. That'll give you the gist of what we're about. And then after watching both of those, then you can bring your questions to us because we want to give you a little background so you know what questions to ask. Okay. If we didn't answer them there, Now it's the time to bring those questions. And we're hoping that pastors will show up. If they don't, you can still submit a question, because now's the time to educate the church as much as we possibly can. We've been trying all the years, but now it's getting a little more open to where they're actually starting to listen a little bit. And you see a lot more pastors talking about this subject matter in a church. They may not be totally correct on what they're saying, but at least they're talking about it and they're getting their congregations to think about it a little bit. So what we want to do is give this opportunity to educate them and answer as many questions that they may bring to us at this symposium. And that's what we'll be doing in Roswell. But we'll also be in costume in Roswell. Guy and I both, and Gabe Ginorno, that's part of our group now. He's part of Alien Resistance with us now. And he's going to be in, I'll get him in a Men in Black costume. So we're going to be hopefully in the parade, the whole works, so we can hand out lots of flyers in Roswell.
See, I think you need to dress as Grays in Roswell, because then you can get into those conferences they never let you in.
Well,
you can grab the microphone.
Picture this. I've already seen it in my mind, and I'm just waiting to do it. Is we're going to go into the UFO museum there with all of its hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people flowing in and out, and we're going in there in costume. That's going to be big time photo opportunity.
That's going to be really big time. I'll tell you what, I still can't figure out how Oregon became the second biggest conference for this. Like do they have a lot of sightings and abductions there? Like, I don't get it. I understand Roswell, obviously, but why Oregon?
They just had that one there in McMinnville back in the 40s and 50s, that one that made the famous picture. You look that one up, you'll see it. And
I forgot about that one.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
And that's what they're doing it. The McMenamins Hotel there is the one that puts it on right there in the center of town. And I tell you, it's an old little town. It's got the old style streets and everything with the the block stores on it. And I'm telling you, it's a beautiful place to have the festival. It was really awesome. So yeah, but it's taken on. It's a festive time. The festivals bring people not just because they're interested, it's because it's a time to have a good time. It's almost like another Halloween, but not at Halloween. You come in a costume at a different time. So we're going to play the game. We're going to join in with them and hand out lots and lots of flyers. The business card I made up for this, along with the handout. The handouts are advertised in my talks. I'll be doing I fly in on Friday. I get there before noon, and then we're going to dress up right away and spend the rest of the day Friday passing out flyers. The flyers are for the talk and the documentary showing that we're going to do on Saturday, and then again on Sunday and afternoon. And then we planned for a breakfast that anybody wants to show up for question and answers at the breakfast before I leave on Monday. Will be available there at a IHOP we're doing it at, so people can come and last chance to ask questions before I leave. But the business cards I made up, business cards had all my CE4 information on one side, and then the other side is the picture that you see of the documentary and a QR code that says scan me. So we plan on just throwing these everywhere. I got thousands and thousands of them printed up. So we just leave them everywhere. Every time somebody scans one, it's going to give us a hit on the YouTube, and hopefully they'll watch the whole thing. And the other side of the card will give them, if they want more information, they can come to the website.
Yeah, the QR code, that's a great, gosh, people have them on their T-shirts now. And
yeah.
Just out of curiosity, people scan them.
I'm looking at that.
Yeah, it works, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at making some T-shirts up, put it on there.
Mm-hmm. And
they could be behind you and scan it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's 17th and 18th of May. So next month,
that's soon.
A month from now, I'll be up there.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
In November, I've got a talk I went last year too, and the gal that puts on the conference there from last year, she's already scheduling another conference this coming year, this year in November, back up in Post Falls, Idaho. Yeah, it's way up. But we had a great turnout last year. It was pretty good. I go up with it'd be myself and Bradley Burnham from Strange Normal podcast.
Oh, cool.
Him and I went last year together, and we'll be going again this year. Him and I had the opportunity to talk together, and we were both invited to a big conference that was happening in Huntsville, Alabama, this past year. I think that was in the end of October. I was in Huntsville at the Space Center of all places. Imagine that. That was a heyday of my career right there. We were right there under the Saturn V at the visitor center there.
Wow.
Yeah. So here I am living my dream
Uh-huh.
for the second time, and I get to speak at the Space Center in Huntsville.
Can't make it up.
Can't make that up.
Nope.
And
Just
I
like you
thought,
talked about at the beginning of the show, God just provides, right? He keeps providing the way,
he
and
just
he knows like those things interest you, and those things, and it's, I don't know. That's what I always say. Like, I think we're gonna get to heaven. There's this like tapestry, and all these different threads of our life are gonna be woven together, and you'll be like, how did he do that? Like, it's just amazing, like the timing and everything, but and getting the right people at the right time in the right place. So cool.
Yep.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of good
we
stuff.
do it ourselves. We
So are you
couldn't do
gonna-
it ourselves.
Is there going to be any like live streaming of these events?
We're planning to do live streaming in Roswell. The symposium. I've got a podcaster friend that's coming in to. He's going to do the live stream for us. Gabe, the guy I mentioned, that's now part of us with Alien Resistance. He lives in Texas nearby, and he came over last year and he videoed the conference we did last year. Guy and I talking, and did a great job. He's a filmmaker too, and he's got all the gear. He'll bring that in and do because we're going to hard film it to where we can put a professional screen up on YouTube for later. But we want. I brought it up to Guy. I says, Guy, I know we're going to film this and make a high quality recording of it, but what about if we live stream while it's happening too? And that's when we're bringing my other friend in. He's going to set up with his podcast stuff, and we'll just set up a camera that can sit back and capture everything and let it all go live. So I'll make sure you got the link to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, I think that's good. Have it, professionally edited for later, but to live stream it, there'll be quite a few people that would be interested in hearing that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll be good. Well, Joe, man, the documentary was fantastic. Great job. Everybody involved in that did a fantastic job. Guys, I have the link to the documentary, Deception. It is in the description box below on these videos. Joe, we'll go ahead and we'll add some of those other items that you were just talking about. If you want to text those to me, I can add them to the description later.
Okay.
Just in case people want to maybe attend one of those events or are interested in something about it.
Sure.
And we need to have you back like soon with all this stuff breaking in the news. Like there's just so much to talk about. It's insane. And obviously we didn't touch really much on it tonight, maybe a little bit, but, and I know we had talked in the past, maybe some of the testimonies, maybe some of those people would like to come on and give their testimony, even if they come in for 10 minutes and leave, that's fine.
You know what I can do for you? How about all 4 of the members from the documentary?
Oh, that would be amazing.
They would all come on.
Oh, that'd be incredible. Yeah, I would love to do that.
Because
Absolutely.
there's so much more story to their lives than what we captured in an hour.
Right. Yeah, no, and whenever they're ready to do it and we can get everybody together, yeah, let's do it. I would in a heartbeat.
Or independently,
Either way. Yep.
Either way. Well, we may do a big one. I'll get Dean on too. We'll just have everybody on and talk about it.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, talk about the making of the film and
they're real. They're real
process.
people.
Yep.
I actually Dana. I became acquainted with her when I was living in Korea. We were talking back and forth because something she realized listening to my podcast is she's right here from Brevard County.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
that's
then,
weird. And you were all the way halfway across the world.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Oh, and then I get the Blue Origin and I start sharing all my information. And this little old guy that works there with me at Blue Origin, I got to talking to him. He's a real nice guy. And I shared with him what I do. And he goes, I need to tell you my story. He says, I'm published too. I got my book on Kindle. I'd like to get it in paperback someday. So I'm helping him get that done here this year. But his story's up on Kindle right now, and that's Don.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that's
I
so
see Don every
crazy.
night. He works second shift, same
That's
time
the
I do.
craziest thing.
Yeah, and Don's got a powerful testimony. He was stage 4 kidney failure, and they had to put him on the what they call a watch
Oh,
list
yeah.
for transplant.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's an amazing story. He'll have to tell you that one. But he got his transplant. It ended up coming from his wife, and he is doing so well. It is amazing.
Gosh, crazy.
And then Jason, of course, Jason was co-author of my book, Piercing a Cosmic Veil. He's right there on the front cover. And I had Jason out here for a conference I did here locally. He got to meet everybody, and that's when I introduced him to Dean, and that's when we said we got to get his story. So I was the one that brought all the people there. Jen, Dean found her through watching some shows, and he went to New York, to Long Island, to do the film for her. But now we all know each other and we all talk. So it'd be great to have everybody and give the whole thing about the documentary and how it
Yeah, I
came
would love
about.
that. That'd be
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
They're
It's
great people. All of them are
absolutely.
great people.
Yeah, I love it. I just like real. You know, you can't beat real.
You know, you want to hear real. Jason was a fascinating story of how we met. Jason he doesn't tell it in the documentary, but Jason started, remember he says he was searching online
Mhm.
for answers? That's when he came across my work. And he reached out to me, and that's when we first met. I was over in Korea at the time. But as we got to know each other over the next couple of years, it was amazing how much we were alike. Of course, you see him, bald head, beard, like me. But my cat was on, we were talking one time on Zoom call, and my cat photobombed, the Zoom meeting right across my desk here. And he goes, "Is that your cat?" And I going, "Yeah." He goes, "You're not going to believe this." He shows me the same cat.
Oh my, come on.
It is his. And then we got to talking. I wanted to, I was over in Korea when all this was going down. And I was talking to him from Korea, and I like to keep my wife involved with, know the people I'm talking to. So I had her come in, and I said, "Here, say hi to this guy." And my wife's Filipina. His wife is also part Filipino.
What? Come on.
I'm telling you, you can't
So
make
crazy.
this stuff up.
I gotta say, when I first watched the documentary, I'm like, man, this guy kind of looks like Joe.
Jason's hilarious. When him and his wife flew here, when I had him flown in to do the conference here in Florida from California, I met him at the airport. I picked him up at the Orlando airport, and I'm waiting where all the people come out. And as soon as he sees me, he yells, "Hey, Dad!" I'm cracking up.
Oh my gosh, yeah. His testimony was great. Like he did
Yeah.
they all did such a great job.
Yeah.
And it's not, that's what I love, that it's not performance. It's just
No,
them
none of
telling
that
their
was.
stories. Like, and that's why it makes it authentic. Like I'm in an age of AI, everything's AI. I mean, I got a couple of videos I used AI to make a bunch of stuff, little short things for Christian teachings or whatever. It's nice to just see real again, like just to hear a testimony. And I mean, there was a little drama to it with the music and stuff, but of course it's supposed to be entertaining. Otherwise you're not going to be engaged in it. I remember, Joe, when I was making my little half-hour documentary for our friend Chris, who got jailed illegally. It's a long story. That documentary, just a half hour. And I'm a guy that's never made one before. I have some decent editing software, whatever. My son does it for a living, so he kind of helped me with a few things. But I remember it took me, 4 months to do a half hour.
Yeah.
And mine was easy because he actually narrated the whole thing from a phone call. So I just used his phone call to put pictures together and stuff, and use some AI, use some free photos from the internet, whatever. And I was thinking, man, people do this for a living. Like, this is a lot of work, man.
It
and then trying to get music to go, the score to go with it and everything. Like, it's really difficult. So like, kudos to the guys that put that together, because I mean that's very well done. And I know they probably didn't have some monster budget, right? Like
no, that was all Dean. Dean did all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, he spent so much time on it. He just never imagined he was going to let it go for free.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he's so excited now to let it go, and now we're looking for down the road to what's the next one going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure there's going to be some good ones.
Probably going to have me and Guy in it because he's got all
I,
that footage already.
I will say I was a little shocked that you didn't make a couple appearances in there. Just
Yep.
but yeah, all in all, I thought it was
Wasn't for me.
fantastic. Yep. The next one for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, Joe, as always, thank you so much, my brother. Appreciate you. Appreciate what you're doing, bringing the light of Christ to a very dark world. Guys, thank you so much on Rumble, X, Foxhole. We appreciate all of you. You guys can like, share, and subscribe. That would be amazing. Get us in those algorithms. Let's get this documentary out there. Let's get it passed around so others can see
It's free.
the deception. It's free. You can't beat it. Yeah. I mean, how can you pass up free? Like, it's just, we talked about there's nothing in this world free. Well, I guess the documentary's free.
This one's free.
Right. So, and then Joe,
The
the other thing I'm going to need are so if anybody just puts your name in an Amazon search for your books, will they all pop up? The new ones also?
Yes. All
Okay,
three. Piercing a Cosmic Veil, The Red Flags of Ufology, and the third one I just finished, which is UAP End Time Delusion.
Perfect. Yeah. I'll do is
I'm working on a fourth one.
and how do you find the time? Writing's a difficult, I mean,
No, it's
easy for you?
He gives it to me, and
Really?
and I have to wait till he gives it to me.
Like when
I've
you're
been
sitting
doing-
there, I mean, like, do you ever have like writers, like, what do they call it? Writer's cramp or writer's block? Where you're just kind of like sitting and you're like, oh man, I don't know how I'm going to end this
Yes.
chapter or whatever.
Yes, but the way like this new one I'm working on, I'm not sure what the title it yet. Ramblings of a Ufologist. That's what it comes to mind right now. But basically, it's whenever I have a thought, I take the concept of you're going to hate me for this. I take the concept of the thought. This is the way the new book's going to be worked, and I give it to Chat GPT,
I was
and
going to
it
ask.
kicks it out.
I was literally going to ask you how much you're
There's
using
a
AI.
chapter, a bunch. There's a chapter right there. Let me tell you something before you let me go. A lot of people are concerned about AI. I'm learning so much about it. It can be of very good use.
Oh yeah,
It's all in the hands of the user.
absolutely.
AI is not bad in itself. It's only bad if a bad person's using it for bad. Because I'm seeing that, and it's such a fascinating experience to work with AI if you haven't worked with it. Once you work with it a while, it learns who you are. It learns how you think. And when you give it something, you see it learning from you.
Mhm.
When you give it something, it'll say, "Well, do you want it like you did in this book?" I'm going, it remembers everything about you,
It's
more than
incredible.
your best friend does, and
Oh.
it uses all of that.
I've had this debate many times with other people. Like, I do use it. I mean, it's a great research tool, especially with the trafficking stuff we're doing. I can find a bunch of information very quickly. And it does remember my searches and things like that. Now, obviously, that's very scary on the other side of it when it's in the hands of evil people, of course. I mean, just like it's just like anything else, though, right, Joe? I mean, I don't. If it's technology, if fire can be used for good, it can burn down your house. I mean, like it's. So it's the time we live in. I'm going to use it to its fullest ability. When Google, I remember when the search engines were first coming out, Yahoo and all that stuff, people were terrified of that too. So it's just an evolution. This is the one place I will say evolution. It's an evolution of the technology getting better, and I'm going to use it to to the detriment, I guess. I don't know. I think it's very useful, and for editing, it's amazing. Like, I will say. Sometimes I get people send bios for some of our shows, and they're not writers, so it's kind of all over the place. And then we'll put it in like Grok or ChatGPT or one of the other ones, and it just boom spits one out in about a minute, and I can edit a few things that I don't like it did, and now we have a bio that's very understandable, and people can read it and see what
we use
show's
it
about.
at work. We use it at work a lot. They actually set up its own GPT to where we're not online using Chat GPT. It's called Blue GPT. It's one that they designed just to be within the network for Blue Origin.
Hmm.
And we use it for review time. You want to write a review for somebody, put your basic info in there, slap it into Blue Review, and it'll kick it out professional. You can update your resumes that way. Incident investigations to get them written properly. Everybody writes different, but if you put your information and slip it into Blue GPT, it'll come out the same, for everybody, same type
Mhm.
of format. So yeah, it's good for that purpose. I love it. But the writing part does too, because it's amazing how much it knows about me now that I've worked with it. It obviously has read my entire website because it pulls stuff from my website that I never gave it, you know. So I mean, even testimonies. I've used it where it says, "Do you want to include a testimony?" And I'm going, "Yeah, sure, throw one in there." I didn't pick it out; it
Mhm.
did, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, that's a good one," you know. But it's
It,
it's like, wow,
it's the greatest time saver ever. Like
yeah,
it's
absolutely,
like, I mean, some of the, like, I need statistics sometimes, and just like rare papers that were written, 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. It's like boom, 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 there it is. And then, do you want this in an outline form? Yes, put it in an outline form.
yeah,
Or put it chronological, or alphabetical, or like, it's just like, it's such a time saver. And I I shouldn't say this, but my son, my youngest, he's still in school, and they had to read a book, and I know nothing about the book, and I'm trying to help him with his homework, and he's like, well, I don't remember, I don't know what that chapter was about, whatever. And I put this book's
GPT.
title. It was amazing. Like, it literally gets right down to the sentence. And these poor teachers, I mean, who's not? If I was a kid, of course I would be using
Yeah,
AI. Like, who wouldn't? Like, Google was the greatest thing ever, right? And then all of a sudden, you're able to find things very quickly with Google, but it wasn't parsing things out for you and literally, like,
yeah,
writing things. So my son, I guess he took my example. This is not a good example, and he used AI for something, and he wrote it word for word. And she's like, "This is AI. You can't use this." Gave him a fail or whatever. So I had to tell him, I'm like, "Look, all the kids are going to use it, but you have to take the information and put
personalize
it
it.
in your own words." Yeah, put it.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm
but
using it. The way I'm using it for the new book is this book is like somebody writing their memoirs, their thoughts, like a diary,
mhm,
but something comes to mind and you write it down. And
mhm,
then something else comes to mind and you write something on it. That's basically what I'm going to be doing with this first book. All my thoughts about different things that I've come across in my 32 years of research, my thinking on that subject, like, there's some things we disagree on.
mhm.
Well, let me write something on it about that, and I'll put it in there, and then I'm gonna take all those, a whole collection of them, and put them together in one book. And like I said, the only title that's coming to mind right now is Ramblings of a Ufologist.
I like
But
that
I'm
though.
sure it
Yeah,
might be the one I use,
yeah,
whatever
that's
I
a good
can
one.
use to get people's attention.
Well, ufologists will definitely get their attention.
Yeah.
Put that in the title, and it's going to get their attention for sure.
Yeah.
That clickbait. All
Yeah.
right. Well, good stuff, Joe. I'm going to go ahead. What I will do is link your Amazon page. That way they can
Okay.
look at all the books and go ahead and download from there, or do they have PDF downloads from those websites? I can't.
You
I don't
can
know if they
get
do or not.
Kindle,
Just Kindle. Okay.
and then you can capture
And
it
then,
from Kindle.
yeah, that's true. And then audiobooks too, right? Some
Yeah.
of them have. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we'll do that. Also, if you can send me the conference information, I'll go ahead and put that in the
Okay.
description. And guys, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. Love you. God bless you. Have a great night. Have a great week ahead. Enjoy the spring weather. Oh, Joe, I know you don't have to worry about this, but up here,
No, we're
oh,
in 80s. We're in the mid 80s already.
oh man, it was like, it was so, Joe, I'm not joking. It was last, what's today? It's Sunday. I think it was Tuesday. We started getting snow. I couldn't even believe it. I was literally washing my car. I was at they were using the vacuum thing, and me and this guy are standing next to each other, and all of a sudden it goes from sun to snow. And we're both looking at each other going, oh my gosh, seriously? How can this possibly be? And then the next, 2 days were like 70 degrees. It just made no sense. Anyway, the great white north.
Yeah.
All right, guys. God bless. Take care. Joe, thanks again. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. We'll do it again.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.